because entrepreneurs will create vehicles, entrepreneurs will create solutions, products that will serve as solutions to the existing problems. So entrepreneurs also create opportunities. So in Africa now, one of the huge problems is called greater unemployment. So this is just a reflection that education is weak in the continent, because if education is producing talent, graduate smart people, and yet they are not able to create opportunities for themselves and for others, it means there's something wrong about that education model. So it also means that if we can have entrepreneurs who can help to identify problems and solve them, and also, create institutions called companies that can create opportunities for people, then that will be huge and instrumental in advancing and moving the world forward. Entrepreneurs also create wealth and prosperity. So the best of nations in terms of their economic strength, in terms of their financial strength, can be traced to entrepreneurship. So if you look at the advanced nations of the world, it's mostly driven by entrepreneurship. It's built on the back of entrepreneurs who create jobs, who create opportunities. Basically, people who do things that advance and move the world forward. I mean, just think of companies like Apple, companies like Google, companies like PEVest, companies like PetsySave, RealVest, organizations that are creating opportunities, solving problems, and creating prosperity in the process of doing that. Basically, moving the world forward. But the kind of economy we're in right now, which you consider the digital economy, is the kind that has made entrepreneurship kind of like cheaper. So it is cheaper to be an entrepreneur now. Unlike many years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. In fact, let's never go too far. Let's even come to like maybe 20 years ago. It was expected to become an entrepreneur because you have to, get some massive tons of equipment to do certain things. But now the digital economy kind of like has given everyone the huge opportunity to become an entrepreneur, to become a solution to the problem, particularly looking at our own context in Africa. So in this particular case, what we're going to address in this particular summit is to explore entrepreneurship in the digital economy. How can we use this blessing of entrepreneurship to solve Africa's problem while taking advantage of the kind of era that we're in and the kind of economy, particularly the digital economy, and how we can take advantage of that to create opportunities. And so the reason why we're here is to be able to extract out juices from the speakers and keynote speaker and facilitators who will be sharing with us here today, so that we can draw insights and also begin to make moves and take action, because the outcome of this is for us to draw insights that we can go put to work and practice and begin to implement in our various spheres of influence. And more importantly, this will put in a report that everyone can have and we all can implement and move Africa forward. So to all our attendees, thank you for making it to be here. And I'm sure that you pick and draw and connect the things that will help to advance and move forward. Thank you very much for everyone who's here. Thank you once again to all our speakers. I really appreciate everyone to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stephen Oluwatobi. Thank you so much. Guys, just in case you have gotten any value from the program so far, we are also very social. So take 1-2 wise words, nuggets that you've gleaned from Dr. Stephen's speech. Go to Twitter, tweet it, use the hashtag Edustart Summit 21 and tag at Edustart Global. Very shortly, we will be having the keynote address from Bosun Tijani. Bosun Tijani is no stranger. He's contributed immensely to what we now call the tech ecosystem in Nigeria. I was having a conversation sometime last year with one of the VCs in Nigeria, and we're just talking about people and their contributions to the ecosystem, and Bosun's name kept ringing, kept coming up like several times for different ways he has contributed to the ecosystem. He is a keynote speaker for today's program. Please, ladies and gentlemen, we will listen to Bosun's profile, and then afterwards he'll come up and deliver his keynote address. Thank you so much, Bosun, for being with us.
Before CC Hub, Tijani had worked with the International Trade Center, where he successfully led the development and deployment of a web marketing and information services program in Ghana, and subsequently in Uganda and Kenya, with record positive outputs. At Hewlett-Packard, he successfully managed the deployment of the ODEL Learning Center at the Africa Virtual University in Kenya, and completed the deployment of the HP, IEEE, and University of Ibadan Telecenter in Nigeria. He also initiated and completed the deployment of the HP Micro Enterprise Acceleration Program Learning Center at the Lagos Business School in Nigeria, and provided recognizable support to its deployment in Egypt and Morocco. He later moved to Pera Innovation Network, where he served as the European Innovation Manager, where he led the coordination of innovation agencies across Europe. At CC Hub, he has led social technology projects including Lagos Innovation Hotspots and IHQ, and has driven the growth of social innovation using technology, producing initiatives and businesses that have influenced environment, fiscal transparency, e-commerce, healthcare, education, wellness, and transportation. He also prompted the visit of Mark Zuckerberg to CC Hub on his first ever visit to sub-Saharan Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bosun Tijani.
Brilliant. I believe this is the point where I take it up, right?
Absolutely, Bosun.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so very much for the opportunity again. Congratulations to Dr. Oluwatobi for the consistency and the amazing work he's been doing around entrepreneurship ecosystem. Stephen is one of the few people who I find it difficult to say no to. I think we've only met physically probably once or twice, but I find it difficult to say no to Stephen. Not just because of the beauty of the work that Stephen is doing, but also because Stephen's work aligned with my personal vision for what I think needs to happen for us to drive economic prosperity in Nigeria, but also across Africa through innovation and technology. And I'll explain part of why in my talk. It's easy to look at conversations around entrepreneurship in the digital economy as one that has been overflowed. There's been quite a number of these kind of conversations in the last probably 5 to 10 years. And one may look at it and say, it's just the thing that is popular, it's the trend, so it's good to have these conversations. But I think it's much more than that. We live at a time where the current wave of technology, about 8 years ago, we used to call these technologies emerging technologies. But these technologies are now fully matured, and in their maturity, they have significant implications for society and for mankind. Depending on where you sit, some of us see these technologies and see opportunity for a better world. We see these technologies and we see opportunity to create immense value for humanity. Some see it and see the same thing, but they see a lot of money as well, opportunity to create a new venture, opportunity to make, yet another significant amount of money. But I think these technologies have way much more implications. These technologies connect humans to humans in ways that we've never seen before in our evolution as mankind. The level of connections that we see today has never been witnessed before. Now on this call, without traveling, Nora from South Africa is here on the panel, with us. Without traveling, I'm not in Nigeria, but I get to participate in this event. Without traveling, I'm sure there are people in Covenant University, participating in this event, but from all over the world as well. This is one of the things that these technologies that we deal with today enabled us to do. Unlike before, we can now also collect information and process this information in way much more faster manner than we've been able to do before, which means we can collect data and make sense out of the data in ways that even humans cannot, data that humans have no capability of being able to process just on our own. This new wave of technologies now give us the power to be able to do that. On top of that, this new wave of technologies now connect humans to machine, but also machine to machine as well. And that has huge implications, for productivity, but also for security as well. So you now see that the wave of technology that we have to deal with not only lend themselves to the chance for someone to make money. And that's the reason why they are part of the core of economies all over the world. But because this new wave of technology now determine the competitiveness of nations, right? Nations who will stand out and be able to continue to be productive will have to use digital technologies, or will have to have a strong way of participating in the digital economy, such that the level of productivity in their nation is up there. For anyone who is an economist in the room, you probably can relate to what is called total factor productivity, which naturally says that the level of productivity of any economy is typically determined by the things that a lot of people cannot see. So technical efficiency comes from not just how much capital or human resources that you have. Only those things are important, but how much more can you apply technical efficiency to generate better outcomes from those inputs that you have? So if you take two countries and you give them the same inputs, the one that is going to stand out is that one that is able to apply technical efficiency. And that's why this wave of technologies are important, because they raise the level of technical efficiency to a whole new level. To a whole new level. They raise it to a whole new level. But finally, as well, these wave of technologies that shape what we can now call the digital economy, they also pose security issues, because you can tell that national security issues are now tied to these things. If you follow conversations on cryptocurrency, you can see how countries are jittery, central banks all over the world confused as to what to do, losing control over the most important part of any economy, and they're unsure what to do about it. Whether you're on the side of the entrepreneurs who just want to innovate, or you're on the side of the lawmakers and regulators who are scared that their economies will become porous. The fact that these technologies are beginning to shape societies in really difficult ways, and countries and nations and economies who have a strong hold of these technologies will be those that will become competitive, and not just become competitive. Even wars will now be fought on these technologies. You can see how the United States made serious allegations of Russia using Facebook to disrupt their elections. This is where the new competition and war is going. So it is important that we take digital economy seriously, not just because it's sexy, not just because entrepreneurs can make money from it and young people can make money from it. It is because it is what everything is based on moving forward. And a key part of this digital economy, obviously, is entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship, not in the sense that is everything we need. For entrepreneurship itself to help us make sense out of digital economy, innovation needs to happen. And innovation does not necessarily, most of the time, reside within entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is the tail end of innovation. That's how we commercialize and generate returns from the knowledge that we've created. So I thought, I'm not sure how much time I have, but I thought I'll do one thing, for the keynote. But I thought I'll do one thing, which is to share an article I wrote, I think it's now about 4 years ago, which is still relevant. And in this article, I was trying to look at what was powering technology innovation in Nigeria, but I applied an academic thinking to this, which I think is applicable in any country in the world. So when you talk about, because innovation is an essential part of how we help entrepreneurs to make sense out of digital economies, it is important that nations then think about how you build innovation capacity within nations. How do you build that innovation ecosystem that will allow entrepreneurs to be able to generate wealth from these digital economies that we're talking about? And the typical ways which economists will tell us that they go about doing this is that they'll tell you that you have to think of your innovation systems. So innovation systems of any nation is the theory that is behind how nations put pieces together that allow innovation to happen, that builds innovation capacity. And we know, if you study growth theory in economics, you will hear about the relationship between innovation, research and development, and economic growth. It's well written and it's all tied up. So innovation system sits within that. But the thing about innovation systems is that it looks at this building capacity from a broader perspective, which is the entire economy. So it will tell you that you need a robust academic sector for innovation to happen, because this is where you're going to do cutting edge research in nations where cutting edge research is done. So all the technologies that we see today, they start off from research, but I know a lot of African countries don't participate well enough at this level. But a strong innovation systems will require academic institutions that are extremely strong in generating new knowledge, whether through basic or applied research. It will include them also training talent. These talents are the ones who are going to fuel the economy that you need, right? Then you include them also working with industry to be able to ensure that their work is also aligned in solving problems that industry wants to solve or have serious impact on society. Innovation systems would also include, things like policies, institutions, all the regulators that will come up with things and make it happen. Obviously, we include what you call innovation intermediaries, which are, in Africa, we call them the tech hubs. But in that thinking, they're called innovation intermediaries. These are the guys who actually connect and empower people to actually go ahead and take innovation to market. Of course, you include things like investor and all of that. But there's then an extension of this theory. I see Gideon is coming on. Am I done with my time? How much time do I have, by the way, so that I can structure this to...
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay, but how much more time do I have?
You have 10 minutes.
Okay. But an extension of the innovation system is actually something that is called the sectorial innovation system, right? And the thinking around sectorial innovation system is that when you're looking at innovation system as a nation, it's different from when you're looking at it from a sector, right? And it is important for you to be able to digest that. And that's why I thought for things like, the startup ecosystem, digital economy, even though digital economy cuts across so many sectors, you can almost still look at it in itself as a sector. And there are three key components of the sectorial approach to innovation system that, everyone should know about. So this sectorial approach believes that for you to build innovation capacity, there are three things that are key. And the first one is knowledge and technological domains. The second one is actors and networks. And the last one is what is referred to as institutions. And I think it's important that I talk about these for the purpose of this conference, because if we're looking at how, the role of entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship in digital economy, we need to understand that for entrepreneurship in this economy, in this digital economy to thrive, these three key things must be taken into proper consideration. So if you take the first one, which is knowledge and technological domains, the bulk of innovation that you see on the African continent today, especially in the tech space, are innovations that are coming off what you may call pervasive technologies, right? These innovations are based on things that have been built, whether it's connectivity, internet, for instance, mobile telephony, for instance. These are technologies and science that's been created. So science which has led to technology which have now been applied. So what we're doing on top of them mostly is to build. And whilst that in itself is exciting, it limits how far you can go, right? If you want to push the boundary of how much value you get out of the digital economy, we also need to start to think of what role we play at the very early stages of deep knowledge generation, right? If we don't have expertise and specific knowledge on the continent, you will find that we're going to struggle. So, and you can already see this in the success that we've seen in our digital economy. The biggest case will always be Paystack. Paystack is the first startup in the Nigerian ecosystem to exit from what we've seen, which is the holy grail. Exit is what every entrepreneur is using to measure their impact. It doesn't mean that that's the only way you become successful. There are so many entrepreneurs that have been successful in building solutions, but exit is quite popular, right? So if you take Paystack, for instance, even Paystack had to come from the financial technology. And within the financial technology space, there's specific know-how that you need to have to be able to build strong innovation. So for our digital economy to thrive, we will need to have superior knowledge in certain aspects. We can't have it in everything, but we will need to have superior knowledge. So if we say there's something we know about education, which is superior about how education challenges should be addressed, if we layer technology on top of that, we'll start to build unique propositions, unique solutions that can go global, not only be unique to Nigeria, or any part of Africa for that matter. So that starting point is important. And we also need to start to push beyond application areas. We need to start to push the frontier of technology in itself. Are we extremely good in artificial intelligence? Are we doing mixed reality? Do we have know-hows in those areas that no one else has? Are we doing automation? Are we quite strong in automation? Is there some knowledge that we have in automation that people don't have? And this is why when you look at the countries that are leading in digital economy, they also have a strong research angle to their work. So if you go to the Silicon Valley, for instance, it is no joke that Stanford is a major part of the valley, because the bulk of the research work that comes from Stanford is fueling the strength and the innovation that you're seeing in that space. You can already also see that China is already also moving in that direction. China started by doing copycat, which is they copy knowledge, they turn it around and produce stuff from it. But China is now also generating knowledge. They also are the forefront of generating knowledge. 5G, China companies were at the forefront of it, which was part of the cyber war that we've seen lately as well. So if we're going to play maximally within this space, knowledge and technological domain is important. The second thing, according to sectorial innovation system, is actually actors and networks, right? And you will find that these things are also extremely important, especially networks, right? I'll talk to that. That's something I'm extremely passionate about. But when you look at actors are the different individuals within ecosystems. These actors can be investors, they can be intermediaries that we call innovation hubs. They can be government, they can be literally, any institution, any individual, even though there's also still institution part, but it can be entities that are key actors in the ecosystem. The role of each of these actors are extremely important, but not just their individual roles, but how you create network around these actors as well. Actors which are researchers within universities across our continent, well networked to do collaborative research that can help us open up more opportunity within the digital economy. This is something that is extremely important. The intermediaries that we have, do they have the right network and connections to the best intermediaries in the world? This is also important, right? You can't build a good digital economy without your actors being well connected globally. And the reason for that is because today we live in a world where knowledge in itself is embedded in a web of network, right? It's not back in the days where if Stanford does a research, only Stanford or MIT will have access to it. Right. Now, the research results is online in most cases. Where it is not online, some of the foundational knowledge that you require to be able to replicate or even go on such research is also embedded in web of network. So networks are important, whether networks that are supported by technology or networks of real human connections. They are important in how you make a digital economy to thrive. So your actors are important, but also the network of actors are important. But also, lastly, if you look at that article, you see the last part of it. And I think this article is a good read. The reason I think it's a good read is that I've situated it, I've not left it as an academic theory. I've actually situated it in how I saw what was driving innovation in Nigeria, and which was, it was about 4 years ago, but you see that, this thing is still very relevant today. And lastly is institutions, right? You can't drive innovation in any particular sector without strong institutions, because these institutions have key roles to play. And these institutions will start from governmental institutions, for instance. So we have in Nigeria NITDA. NITDA is one organization that overnight can turn the whole of the digital economy in Nigeria around if they choose to. That's how much power they have. These institutions are important because they also are linked to regulations and policies, right? And it is important for those things to be there to drive innovation, to encourage innovation. When you have institutions that are the cutting edge of their game, and it's very important, but also very difficult. All over the world, you find that these institutions are weak, even in the most developed countries, right? So it's not particularly unique to Africa. But the countries that will make the most of digital economy will have strong institutions, strong policies, strong regulations. These regulations, when I mean strong, is not that they are controlling and limiting innovation, but they are strong because they are proactive, they are progressive, they can see the direction in which things are going, and put the right policy and support in place to support entrepreneurs to take the maximum advantage of that trajectory for the benefit of the economy. So I'll give an example as I begin to wrap up. In Nigeria, for instance, up until recently, the bulk of the funding to some of the best startups in Nigeria comes from the US. And the moment they collect the money, the first thing these investors require of them is that they must open in Delaware. And if you layer that on the reality of the fact that it's actually difficult to do business in Nigeria anyway, as a Nigerian business, and you're not sure what the policies will say and how the policies will affect you, for entrepreneurs, it's a no-brainer to open in Delaware. So it's a natural thing for entrepreneurs to want to do, to open in Delaware. Whilst on one hand, that is very good for the entrepreneurs, it serves the purpose of the business, it brings some value to the economy. Long term, if you take my own perspective to technology, the way I started, long term, it does more damage to our economic sovereignty. It does more damage for our ability to be able to hold our national security. Should we be big enough to be competing with these big economies, technically? Because those companies are not Nigerian companies. Paystack is not a Nigerian company. Flutterwave is not a Nigerian company. They're American companies. And I can bet you even the accusation, half of the money is not going to touch Nigeria, if not more than half. The transaction is not going to be done through any Nigerian bank. I can assure anyone that. Right? So this is why strong institutions are important. If you want to capture the value for the economy, strong institutions are important. So as I wrap up, I think the point here is that if we're going to take a robust look at the digital economy, the role of entrepreneurs within it, that robust look needs to not only serve the purpose of the entrepreneurs, but serve the purpose of the economy as a whole. And when it serves the purpose of the economy, it can serve the purpose of many, many more entrepreneurs. It can help us to help people to innovate. It can help us to help entrepreneurs to create value, but it can help us to capture that value for the benefit of all of us at large. I will stop here. I hope I've not taken too much time, and I hope that was useful for everyone on the call. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bosun. Thank you so much. You are very well in time, and to be honest, you've really done justice to the topic. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, my own keynotes out of Bosun's keynotes is that actors must be well connected. Knowledge is embedded in the web of networks. So people must necessarily begin to build networks beyond the Nigerian and the African continent to see how we can also connect with other people in the world. Then also he mentioned the fact that knowledge and technological domain expertise is very important. We must also look at the actors and the networks, and then also strong institutions are important in building a digital economy. Those are very, very interesting topics. I mean, I would love for us to really sit down to dimension and detail all of these things so that we can be able to, have like a clear direction. But what I can do is, if you have your own keynotes, or if you have important things to note that you gleaned from what Bosun shared, you can actually take it to social media, put your thoughts, and then use the hashtag Edustart Summit 21. You can tag Bosun on Twitter at Bosun Tijani on Twitter. Then if you have questions for Bosun from that, you can also take that to 2cent.space. And his profile is already shared on the chat session. So go and ask your questions there, and he will answer the questions in the course of the period. But just so that we have like a bit of conversation here on this platform, we would give like an opportunity for a person or two to ask their questions. So if you have just one question, one person with one question for Bosun from the keynotes, we'd like you to put it in the chat session, and then I'll call you up to ask your question. Or you can raise your hands if you will. Anyone with a question for Bosun? Okay, Michael has a question. Oh, okay, Michael, just type your questions out. Sorry, you cannot unmute your mic. So just ask your questions and I'll read out your questions for Bosun very quickly. All right, while we're waiting for Michael, if you also have another question, okay. If you have another question, any other person has a question, just ask your question here. Every other question will be taken to 2cents.space. All right, Michael's question is, how can I find funding up to $300,000 for my tech startup? It's very promising. Okay, so let me just ask, let me rephrase that question just so that other people can benefit from it. For this audience, Bosun, is actually a mixed audience. There are a few people who are startup founders. There are people who are not startup founders, but are just interested in investments. I know some people are here because they are hearing digital economy, entrepreneurship in digital economy, and they're thinking, oh, maybe Bosun is going to talk about crypto, he's going to talk about Forex and a few other digital investment instruments or investment vehicles that could advise me to put my money in and all of that. And there are some people who are here that are also students and are just asking, okay, so if I'm going to be an entrepreneur, how do I chart the way forward? But for those people who are entrepreneurs, who are startup founders, how do they access funding for their startups? Do you want to do a quick run on that?
I think there are so many ways you can access funding for your startup. And when I compare the landscape today to 11 years ago when we started CCL, it's completely not the same. When you're talking funding, I think this question is quite specific to 300K, which means you're probably not talking about a company that is very early. I'm assuming that you've launched this startup and there's some sort of demonstration of your solution. Perhaps you have 1 or 2 customers, if not more. So there's clarity in terms of what you want to do. So yeah, so I'll think what you're looking for is a seed round, and there are so many, over 1,000. That's fantastic. There are so many organizations now in Nigeria who can cover seed round. You need to go find the list. CCL has quite a number of vehicles for investment. There's the Growth Capital by CCL. But more recently, we launched the CCL Syndicate, which is an opportunity for high net worth individuals, but also Africans in diaspora to invest alongside CCL in companies of your type. We just finished a round last week. So that's the kind of platform you can go to. Oluwa Aboyeji also run something that is quite similar to them. It's the same, called Future Africa. Future Africa is also quite local. They're also investing at this level. There's the likes of Echo VC in Nigeria. There are people who are individual investors as well, like Kola, Olumide Shoyombo. There are quite a number of people now investing, but also funds as well. There's, I think, TLCom as well, which is investing. So today you do have a long list. Someone just suggested Platform Capital. There's quite a number of them. I think what you obviously need to do, if you're raising money as an entrepreneur, you need to make sure you're connected with the right people who can help you understand who are the investors locally. That's part of the work you need to do when you're raising money, but I've shared a couple with you. But beyond that as well, there are so many ways in which you can raise capital when you're starting. You need to be aware of what sort of capital that you require, right? Some of these will be very early stage. You may be at the stage where you need $5,000. You may be at the stage where you need 20,000, 30, 50,000. This particular gentleman is looking for 300K, but there are people who may be looking for 1 million. So when you understand the phase at which your business is, you can also better target the investors. There's also something called co-investment. Typically, when you're looking for 300K, you don't necessarily need to be raising this from just one investor. You can target 2 to 3 investors, and each one of them, some may come in with 50K, 150K, 200K, and you achieve your objective. But the value as well that you need to be thinking of is not just the money. Yeah, these people are not just throwing their money at you because you want money and they give it to you. You need to be looking at which investors are able to also help me grow my business, right? You want investors who can bring additional value to your business just beyond the money. Do they have the right network? I mentioned network before. It's extremely important. Do they have the right relationships, connections to even government in terms of policies at times? What role can they play in helping me unlock further funding down the line when I start to need $1 million, $2 million? So there are a lot of things that you need to think. What expertise can they bring? Would they join my board if I want them on my board? And if I do, what expertise can they bring and things like that? You got Tony Elumelu Foundation. I created that program about 8 years ago. When I realized that people were looking for $5,000 and they couldn't find it, I went to Tony and told him that there was a missing gap. So he gave CC of 100K to do that same thing for 20 startups. And he liked what he saw and decided to scale it across Africa. So you already know some of the tips. I'll stop there. If there are more questions, we can take.
Thank you so much, Bosun. And I'm sure that you have done justice to that question. We're going to take just one more question for you, and that's from Promise Yalungu. And what Promise Yalungu is asking is, what factors do you think can make Africa's media and entertainment industry to boom?
So this is one space that I'm extremely excited about. If you check internet, you probably see that CC Hub launched something with Bez. I believe Bez went to Covenant actually more recently.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Yeah. So I actually think so. So the entertainment space is one space that's done Nigeria a lot of good. If you look at it in the last probably 20 years, it started with Nollywood. Being able to churn out a lot of content that is consumed all over the world. Everywhere you find Black people, Nollywood is popular, even in the Caribbean. But also beyond even color now, there's some people who are obsessed about it and watch. Then you see the music side of entertainment then came into the loop, where our music is now quite popular all over the world, everywhere you go. If you're the type who go out for socials, you find that there are no social places you go on the African continent where Nigerian music is not being played. So this is one sector alongside banking. So entertainment and banking, these are two industries that have put Nigeria on the map, because we have Nigerian banks all over the place as well. But I think also, if you go back to what I was sharing about sectoral innovation, innovation systems, we've not methodically supported innovation within the entertainment space. What we've done is, of course, because of lack of policy, we've allowed entrepreneurs to thrive, and they've thrived. But the limits will always be there when you're not intentional. And that's why it's not enough to just say, allow entrepreneurs and they'll figure it out. People don't understand the difference between innovation and entrepreneurship. They're not the same. Innovation is not complete without entrepreneurship, but entrepreneurship is not innovation. Forget about it. It's not. The people who innovate sometimes may not be entrepreneurs, but you need the linkages. That's why entrepreneurs are important. Entrepreneurs are there to capture value. But when we build the innovation system around that sector, it will take it to the next level. We'll start to compete with whatever sector they call music in the US. I think they have more Hollywood. We'll compete with those guys favorably. In terms of the technology that goes into their production, a lot of our people still go to South Africa to shoot their music videos. It shouldn't be. Right? It shouldn't be, even if we have, I know that the atmosphere may be different, the hair and things like that, and people say it affects the quality of the recording. These are things that technology can help to change. There are things that innovation can change. And because we're not investing enough in innovation, it's not happening. And lastly, the challenge is that entrepreneurs don't invest in innovation. We need to know that, right? They don't invest in R&D, typically, because they're there to quickly capture value. So you find that most entrepreneurs don't invest in R&D. This is the honest truth. And that's why you find a lot of our big companies not being able to compete globally, because they are managed strictly with just entrepreneurial mindset. And entrepreneurial mindset is about capturing value. If we were to be strong in R&D traditionally, the R&D that is coming from universities and research institutions would naturally feed into these guys. But because we're not, right, we cannot expect that entrepreneurs will be capturing value for us and at the same time most entrepreneurs don't do that. They only see money that they need to grab. What value am I grabbing? They don't see how much you need to put and sink in R&D, which can be expensive. So I think the entertainment space is one that has a lot of potentials. My personal take is that the way forward will be for us to link it up with we need to link it up with our technology space, which is why we started our relationship with Bez. That, the technology space is quite innovative. If you pair both of them together, you will go further and we'll be able to capture more money. There's no reason why we can't have our own iTunes. It's a very difficult business to do, I understand. People have tried it, but we have the population, Africa has the population, the Black race has the population. Imagine if we can create stuff like that, how much value we can capture. But even beyond things that obvious, there are so many other ways in which the technology sector can enable the entertainment sector. And I think we need to see that fusion happening for the benefit of our overall economy.
Thank you so much, Bosun. Thank you so much. I mean, your words are full of insights. I've been taking notes, and there are some things I'm actually going to take away from here. But just as we're talking, just to lighten the room a bit. So this guy, Oluwatosi Oluwole Ajibade, is popularly known as Mr. Easy. I don't know. He recently did something where he gave an opportunity to his fans to invest in the production of his music, and then from whatever proceeds that the music gets, he pays them back with interest. Now, let me just quickly ask you, how scalable is that? And is that something that we should begin to look at coming from other artists, or is there something that can be done to further make that systemized so that, you know, artists can now begin to raise funds from their fans to produce music and then get returns on their investment? Is that something that we should be looking at?
Absolutely. I think I know someone else that is doing exactly the same, that is in the planning phase, that is going to be coming out very soon. Is it scalable? Extremely scalable. And this is why you can imagine if the tech space is tied to the entertainment space. You know, Mr. Easy used to be a tech founder, right? That's why he's able to think and apply what he's doing in that space. And it's part of what I just said in terms of the solution. Imagine if we can build robust, reliable, but trustworthy platforms that would allow their audience to be able to invest globally. Imagine how technology can help scale. So it's a no-brainer that is scalable. It's a no-brainer that it's a new way of engaging people to be part of what they consume. Because when Mr. Easy puts a song on iTunes and we all go to listen to it, iTunes is making money, right? He is making money as well. But we that were listening every day, every time you listen, he's making money. And part of his proposition is that as you're listening, you get the chance to invest. You listen, but you're also earning money from you listening and every other person listening. It's a crazy new way of creating value, but also sharing that value for the economy as well. And that's how you build a robust economy. You know, it's how you build a robust economy. It's how also you break the limitations that we currently have. People are saying the biggest aspect of digital economy is decentralization, right? Power's not being in the hands of a few people. You guys probably read the story of the GameStop episode. Even though people are still using the whole idea around decentralization to control, because when they say decentralization, it's really not decentralization. They're using decentralization to collect power from the current holder, and someone else will keep it and call it decentralization. But what Mr. Easy is doing is true decentralization. If it works, if they're able to open it up. Because part of what he's doing there is to saying, we're not going to rely on the traditional way of funding music to fund music. That's what people need to understand. So the reason why it's crowdfunding is it's changing the way music is funded so that it doesn't have to sign difficult terms with the guys who give him money. And it can capture more value by collecting money from his audience. But as long as the audience will also benefit from it, then it becomes true decentralization and something that is obviously valuable. So it's a good way to go, and we need to see more approaches of that nature in the ecosystem.
Thank you so much, Bosun. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So let me just put this out there. Nobody should steal my idea because I'm going to create that platform.
Don't put it out, man. If you have an idea.
That was on the lighter note. Thank you so much, Bosun. Please still stay around. We might need to bring you up later on in the program. But very quickly, we'll be moving on to the next item on the agenda. The next item on the agenda for us here will be having the first speaker speak very quickly. But before we do that, on the program, yeah, there's supposed to be a short break, but because of want of time, we'll just quickly move on to the first talk. And the first talk will be coming from Abel Adejo. He'll be talking about building tech startups teams. We are going to be skipping Sheun Rusewe's parts because she's currently not available to start our session now. So we'll just move to Abel. Abel will be talking to us about building tech startup teams. And Abel is someone who has experience in that. He has done that over and over again. He has done that with many companies. He's someone I respect personally. Very unassuming guy, but doing fantastic stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take his profile, and then after which we'll welcome Abel for his talk. Thank you very much.
The Chief Executive Officer for PettySave, founder for House 150NG, and a serial entrepreneur. Previously, he was an architectural consultant at Pertinence. He holds a degree in the Chief Executive Officer for PettySave, founder for House 150NG, and a serial entrepreneur. Previously, he was an architectural consultant at Pertinence Limited and an architect at John Holt PLC. He holds a degree in architecture from Covenant University, and he is also a Y Combinator alumni. Please welcome Abel Adejo.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here. I would say it's a privilege to actually speak on this platform. Thank you very much, Bosun, for your just concluded session. I mean, there's a lot to take from there, even as a startup founder myself. There's just a whole lot to take from there, a lot of value in what you just delivered. I really appreciate you for that. So I would try to be within my time limit and go straight to the point, really. I'm here to talk about building tech startup teams, right? From my profile, you understand that I'm an architect by training, and this is not something that is rocket science. That's where I'll start from. While I was in school, the truth is I planned, or how I wanted my life to go was just to be this okay architect somewhere, designing crazy buildings for clients, getting paid for it, just have that simple life, simple in quotes. And I never had an idea from start that I'll be building tech startup teams, right? So that's just to let you know on a lighter note that it's not rocket science to build a tech startup team or to build several tech startup teams, right? You don't have to be a programmer, you don't have to be in the tech space to be able to do that, right? There are some basic ideas. In fact, there are basic ideas that you'd apply to building a tech startup team that, sorry, my internet stopped there, that can also be applied, to building other teams, right? That are not just tech startup teams. So, hello, sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, so I would say for me, the building PettySave has been pretty interesting, right? We launched in January of 2019, right? And the team started really, really small. We set out with our goal, what we wanted to do as a company, our mission and all of that. And it wasn't, while I said it's not rocket science, I wouldn't say it's just very easy building a team, a tech startup team like that. So there are many things we had to do from the scratch up until how we got to where we are today, right? First of all, we had an idea, right? We had a dream. We know what we wanted to do, right? So that's even the first step, right? To build a tech startup team. I mean, you can just build a team. There's no team without a goal, right? I mean, you can't build a team if you don't have anything to do, right? So the first step is to, believe in your dream, to have the dream and believe in the dream, right? And that was the first step for us. It's been something we've been thinking about for years, right? Even though we launched in 2019, we've had this idea about, digitizing savings and investments for a while, right? And putting the team together, it had to be very intentional, right? With who are the people that are going to start driving this idea or start driving this dream with us, right? So the first step for us was to actually, come out with the dream and actually believe in the dream, right? There were many pushbacks at first, like, oh, okay, you're going into a market where you'll be swallowed immediately and this and that. How are you sure some of the top talents would want to, come and work for you when there are probably better alternatives there and all of that. But, for us, we believe that what we are doing as a company can't just be handled by, just one company, right? There are going to be several tech startup teams that are coming up to play in our space, right? So for us, the first step was to actually come up with the dream and, keep believing in the dream. So now, when you are going to build a team, you have a dream as a founder, right? The set of people you have to bring in are people that actually believe in your dream. Before they come on board and you make them a part of the team, you actually have to sell the vision to them. Someone who is even enthusiastic about what you're pitching in quotes to them would give you much more ideas. They will tell you, oh, this is how we can do things better and all of that, right? So for you to, that's about the first step for you to even start building a team. You actually have to look for, people who want to be part of it, who have ideas to scale it up, or who have ideas to even make it better than what you think it is, right? So I would say the next step for us is to, that's building a tech startup team now. Or let me just double this as a storytelling and, point making session, right? So for us, the next step for us was to identify key positions. For a tech startup, we are talking about tech startup now. We're not just talking about any startup. For a tech startup, it means you need to have some technical guys on your team, right? You need programmers on your team. You need product managers on your team and all of that, right? So I think for us, the next step, identify all the key roles and key positions that will be needed to even start this dream. Remember, it's a startup. We are not coming from 0 to 100. Right? A few companies go from 0 to 100 in a very short time. But the thing is, majority of companies actually have to go through certain steps before they become global companies or, nationally recognized companies and all of that. And, for us, we started the normal process of building a startup. So for us, what we did was to, identify key positions, right? And we like the requirements that we needed and all of that. For a tech startup team, like I said, you probably need a programmer or two, right? You need a product manager, you need a legal person, you need, if you're in the fintech space, for instance, like where we are, you need a finance person on your team as well. Or look at it, it might be very daunting for you to take on all these people at once, right? I can say the average tech startup team out there has between 25 and 40 staff, right? Right, but you see, starting from 0, you can't afford to bring in 25 people at once. Even if you have money to spend, it's a once, right? Right, maybe bought over by something. They just buy 50 or 30 players at once. Yeah, you have the players on ground, but there's no team cohesion, right? So you take a few beatings for maybe a season or 2 seasons before you guys can actually have team cohesion. You can actually, apply that to building a team, even if there's money on ground to burn, or money on ground to hire some of the top talents you want to hire, right? You actually have to identify the key positions first and bring in these guys. Now, you see, there's no monopoly when it comes to hiring. As the founder or CEO, I think in the early stages, when you bring in these key people to your team, right, responsibility has to go to those same people to do what you just did, right? So if you have one tech person on your team, as the company is growing, they will need much more tech people, on ground. You as the CEO, you don't have to put all that responsibility of yourself. Remember, I said key positions. So for something to be a key position, it means you need to have key people there, right? You don't just get anybody from anywhere, right? And once you get this kind of people in, you can also filter down responsibilities for them to bring people under them as well. But again, the point here is to prioritize the key positions. So for us, when we started, I would say we were maybe 4 or 5 on the team, right? We had the idea guy, we had the tech person and all of that. And, that was how we started. In our first year, even as the founder, I can tell you that we had a functional product, right? But it wasn't, should I say, aesthetically pleasing now. UI UX was a problem and all of that. But that's because the first thing we needed to get was functionality, right? You can have the finest product on the market and have the finest app on the market, and it doesn't work really. So you just have something fine on the market and no users or no customers and all of that. So for us, we have to get functionality, right? And that's like bringing the tech and product guys together. So after you do that, you've identified the key positions, you've prioritized the set positions, right? So in prioritizing, like I said, even if you have all the cash in the world, you need to look at it from top to bottom, right? As the CEO or founder, there are so many roles that you are going to double as, really. You are going to double as probably this. If you're a technical person, you double as the CTO, you be the CEO, CTO, you probably be the product manager at some point. The thing is, no one understands your vision better than you, right? No one can see as far as you want to see the vision. You are the custodian of that vision. So the best that can happen is for you to bring people under that tree, for them to see where you are going. You try your possible best to show them where you are going and all of that. But remember, you are the first point of contact when it comes to your vision for the company, right? So it means some of these key positions you might need to take them on as a founder. Now, in hiring or in building a team, one of the very key things to look out for is people who are multi-talented, right? It will save you a whole lot of cash up front. And, it's like, how do I put it now? Cohesing two different roles together, right? But you see, for someone who has understanding of two roles, it's a faster job than when it's, two people trying to agree and disagree on this and all of that. Remember, it's still at, should I say, incubation stage, right? This team you are building. So a lot of these things, a lot of these roles will have to be doubled at some point. So you are taking on 3 roles. Maybe you have a content developer on your team. So it means you need to, probably give another role to this content developer to say, okay, you'll be in charge of research and content development or something like that, So you need to look out for that when hiring at first, right? And, another key point is to now determine these guys who you are bringing in, right? Even some of these key positions that you've identified, you might still not be able to afford them. Remember, I'm telling this as a story, right? For us, it's not like we couldn't afford to bring some of these guys in, but again, it was very important for us to build this team, from scratch to understand how these things work. We could easily have gotten cash or gotten funding from here and there, hired some of the top guys in the industry and all of that. But you see, it might be a good way to start. But once you throw cash of action in building a team, right? It's always going to be the reference point for whoever you're bringing in, whoever is trying to leave. They can strong arm you, using that method. So it's very important that when you are bringing people in, you try to get them, pay them appropriately, but you also have to get people connected to that vision. So now when you are bringing people in, there's the case of, do I bring these guys in as a full-time employee or a contract employee? Now, let's even assume you are a company without any funding at all, right? How am I going to do this? Full-time or contract? So you see, a lot of people shy away from contract employees. And I think it's just a general consensus that, they might not be as committed as if they are full-time. Let me tell you the truth. Full-time or part-time, whoever is going to be committed is going to be committed, right? A part-time employee can be much more committed to your vision than a full-time employee. A full-time employee, most times, full-time employees have this sense of security, right? So it gives them the should I say, that space to relax a little bit. Oh, okay, I can't meet up with this. I mean, I'm bound by a contract, right? So I still have a job. I can afford to mess up for one day, and I'll come back to my senses the next day. But a part-time employee, right? You know that you've set KPIs for such person, right? It's time bound, so you need to meet some in so time, right? That's how you get paid and all of that. And it will shock you to know that if your vision is pretty interesting and there's progress, there's, what's it called, evident progress, most part-time employees now want to connect and be, part of the dream full-time. I've experienced this, right? So for us, we didn't shy away from bringing in a lot of part-time guys. But you see, I would put a caveat. Do not outsource the core of your product. Never do that. Don't outsource the core of your product, right? So the people who are going to be building your platform, for instance, we made a mistake. I think in our first year, we spent about $22,000, building the PetSafe platform. And it was on a part-time basis, right? So we outsourced in quote. And while we got a functional product, it wasn't really what we wanted. And that was our first lesson as a company, right? Never to outsource the core of your product. I mean, that's the technology, right? So we corrected that mistake immediately in the second year, and the changes were massive. We grew over 1,000%, I think even over 2,000%, in terms of revenue, users, and all of that. Immediately we brought, the core of our product in-house, right? So while you are trying to get in part-time guys, you are trying to get in contract employees, you need to just be sure that you are protecting the core of your product. Let those guys be in on it full time. So it might still be very difficult for you to get some of the very, very good tech guys, or the programmers and all of that to come in and build your platform. So how do you go about this? So for us, we've taken a lot of chances as a company, and I can say maybe it trickles down from some of the privileges I enjoyed in my early days as an employee, right? I've been given opportunity to make mistakes. I've been given opportunity to grow, as an employee. And for me, it's very important that I give a lot of people that kind of opportunity. But you see, it's opportunity, right? It's not free. You don't just throw that around. So in selecting people that you might want to take this chance with, I adopted a particular strategy. I looked for people with a clear vision for themselves now, not even for my company, because obviously they don't even know me yet, right? So I like to see people that are driven. Then for someone that is driven, he definitely has a few friends who are as driven as him, right? So for me, I like to hire a cluster of friends. But it's not just friends. It's not friends who are going out to drink or going out to smoke or, going to party or something. No, a cluster of friends with a vision, right? So a lot of these communities, I'm sure even in school, you see a lot of people who hang out together. Some of these tech guys, they hang out together. They try to build stuff together, right? For me, it's a strategy to target people like that because they already have the drive to want to do something together. The thing is, probably 7 out of 10 of them will build a failed product at the first instance, right? But they're already building, that's the most important part. They're already building something, right? There's already an agreement between them to build something, even though it's going to fail. But you see, the thing is, failure can be a bonding element at some point, right? Failure for these guys. So let me just give you this scenario. You have 4 guys building a product, right? Maybe a tech product, and trying to get it to market and all of that, it fails totally. You see, stepping in and picking these guys up and saying, you know what, I have another idea, right? Let's do this together. I share the idea with you. What do you think you can contribute? Now, the truth is, it's practically a lifeline for these kind of guys, right? To make another mistake in quote. You are not in business to make mistake, but you're taking a chance, right? It could go incredibly well or go terribly wrong, right? So when you've seen a team of driven people like that, right, you share your idea with them, you try to bring them on board. The truth is, when you bring those guys on board, now it saves you a lot of time when it comes to onboarding processes. It saves you a lot of time when it comes to team cohesion and all of that, right? So you already have a few guys who know themselves well, right? They know how they work. Division of labor is pretty easy between these kind of guys, right? So it's one strategy when it comes to building a tech startup team, really, to hire like a cluster of friends, really, a cluster of driven friends. I need to put that caveat there, right? So you as a startup founder in school right now, you have a pool of people that you can bring into your team to build a team. Making those findings right now. Look for people who have something they are building, probably a product, whether it's a very good product or something that you think might not work out and all of that. So these are kind of people you want to have, on your side as well. Also, one thing that is very, very important is the culture of the business, right? I can't tell you what's the culture of your startup team should be, right? But every single team or every single company should have their own culture, right? But two things that must be embedded in the culture of your team is commitment and enthusiasm, right? Commitment to the vision, right? And the enthusiasm about that vision. There are two very, like, no matter what your culture is, those two things have to be part of it, right? When you are getting people on board, you need to be sure that, oh, they are committed to this cause, right? They are happy about it. They are happy to do this. You see, the truth is Nigeria is a very tough place. So many people are looking to cash out immediately. So there might be a case of you trying to hire a few people and what their requests are very, very high. I'm not saying you should just throw such people away, no. Nigeria is a tough country, remember. So you can't blame someone for trying to look out for themselves, right? But you see, you are probably going to meet a few people who can balance that out for you, right? Oh, they don't want to work for free, right? But they are also very, very interested in this product. They are very, very enthusiastic about this product. Those are some of the kind of people you need to look out for, really, when you are trying to, what's it called? Build a team, right? How you sell your vision is very important. You could have a fantastic product with fantastic potential, but if you don't go the right way about telling people about this vision, that's the storytelling angle of building. Really, sure that commitment and enthusiasm. Round up, point is you can't be sentimental about building a team. Mental, right? You get it right when you might be a few bad eggs in the team. You might have someone who is totally demotivated, right? And the thing about motivation is it's contagious. So if someone is less motivated, it can filter down to the reassure vision is this, right? And if such person says, oh, you live in your dream, I think the best keep your team together is to just let really you can't be a nice guy, a friend. You don't want to be, you don't want to let him out of the team because you can just be very polite about it, but let such person go. You have to just what's it called? You just to keep.
All right. I think the network, Abel's network is bad, and we lost Abel there. Well, hopefully he joins us back. Let me just take this opportunity to refresh the room, just in case you're just joining in, or just in case you are joining for, you came in while Abel's session was going on. This is Edustart Summit 2021. This is the 4th edition of Edustart Summit, and today we're discussing entrepreneurship in the digital economy. We have with us Boston Tijani, whose session was a while back. He delivered the keynote address with so much nuggets and information to share to entrepreneurs. And then after which we had Abel. We lost Abel for a minute, but he's back. We'll give him a minute to wrap up his session, and then we'll come back and continue with the rest of the program. Abel, you're welcome.
Okay, sorry, I think I had a small issue here with my internet. So like I was saying, I think going forward, there are still many more points or many more ways with which you can build a tech startup team. Good enough, a link has been provided, right? So if you want more tips or you have questions for me, I think you can drop your questions there. You can follow me on social media or on LinkedIn, ask some of these questions. I'll be very, very happy to share some my experiences with you, and some points you can take going forward in building a tech team. So thank you very much once again for this opportunity, and I look forward to having a greater time.
Thank you so much, Abel. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure having you on board discussing building startup teams. So let me just quickly say this. I'll quote Bosun Tijani. He said, "Knowledge is embedded in the web of networks." It's important for us to build networks and also give opportunity for our friends to benefit. There's a popular saying that says your network is your net worth. And if you work hard to improve your network, your network will also increase. So I just want to encourage you. There's a button just below this Zoom page. It's invites. Click on that invite and share the link to your friends. Let them be a part of the conversation here. If you have questions for Abel, there's a link on 2 cents where you can go and drop your questions on the wall. Abel will be answering questions on that page. If you've gotten any wise words, you've learned anything significant from Abel's talks so far, I think the best thing for you to do is to share them with your networks again. And his Twitter handle is @Brian Adejo, BrianAdejoh. Tweet at him and use the hashtag Edustart Summit 21. And of course, we have our media team waiting to engage with your post. Thank you so much, Abel. It's been a very amazing session. So much to glean. You're very unassuming guy, soft-spoken, but you're doing great stuff. I'm very proud of what you're doing at PettySave, and well done.
Very much.
Well done.
Thank you very
much, Abel. So we'll just move to the next session now. But quickly, if I were you again, if you want to network with people here, you can just copy your LinkedIn profile and paste in the chat session. People will look you up, connect with you, and conversations can start from there. It's actually open for anyone who wants to do that. Then the next speaker who will be speaking will be the Damilare Oshokoya. Damilare Oshokoya, former manager, Hebron Startup Lab, now CEO, RealVest. He's also someone who's been doing significant stuff in the real estate sector. It's a privilege to have him in our midst today. It's very difficult to bring these guys together, but it takes someone with a pedigree like Dr. Stevens to be able to pull these guys together at once. Damilare Oshokoya, ladies and gentlemen, we will take his profile after which he'll take his session.
Damilare Oshokoya is the Chief Executive Officer at RealVest, General Manager Edustart, and former Chief Operation Officer at PettySave. He's also adjunct faculty at Covenant University and a fellow of Wadwani Entrepreneurship Educators. He previously worked as an incubator manager at the Hebron Startup Lab, Covenant University, where he helps young people transform their ideas into sustainable businesses through the provision of mentorship, prepares startups for seed funding, and establishing a strategic partnership with technology. He has major interests in business development, entrepreneurship education, and community service. He's a trainer, researcher, and strategist who loves working with startups and transforming ideas into products. Please welcome Damilare Oshokoya.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Such an honor to be here. Today, I'm in the midst of many of my senior bosses here in the house. I want to say a very big thank you to everyone. Gideon, thank you for the great job you're doing there at Covenant University and at the Hebron Startup Lab. To my mentor and the leader, Stephen Oluwatobi, thank you for this platform. Thanks for your commitment, for always leading by example. I remembered how Edustart started as an idea on paper a couple of years ago. I can't believe it is the 4th edition. I also want to say a very big thank you to our keynote speaker, Bosun Tijani, a man of substance. One of the things I learned from these great men that have gone ahead is it doesn't have to be popular, it just has to be impactful. This platform has done a lot of amazing stuff in the last 4 sessions that we've had. You know, I remember bringing speakers like the CEO of Softcom, bringing in Banklink Africa CEO. Bosun has been in some previous sessions too. So it's amazing what this has done. And I want to say thank you for your commitment for still driving such a big vision like this that is bigger than all of us. Today, I've been asked to talk about creating digital markets. I'm a product of the result that a program like this, I've come around, has bench out. And Bosun was talking, I know what he was talking about earlier when he was talking about why he cannot resist Dr. Stephen's invitation. That's apart from the fact that he has the charm to network you. He's also strong on these are individuals that when you work with, you see that they have greater purpose that is beyond them. And I know from the first time that I met Bosun Tijani, right back then, he was talking about the connectivity between the academic environment. He saw a lot of value beyond just giving certificates to undergraduates and how it could help prepare the digital economy that we're getting to way back as then. He strongly believed and he shared that notion that digital economy will rely heavily on what the academic institution will be providing for it to sustain itself. So I'm going to talk about a few of those things today as I'll be discussing briefly about creating digital markets. And I'm going to take it from the angle of users of value and creators of value. And I'll talk about the community as a whole. So let's look at what market is as in itself. If you permit me, I know I have like less than 20 minutes. I also like to give a bit of frank talk, especially to aspiring and young startup founders that we have in the house today. I had a couple of years of working with a lot of very enthusiastic young people. Many who will come to me and say, we would like to build a drone that can kill 7 people at once, and would like to raise $1 million on day one. And by the next day, they already have a logo. And 2 days after, they've shared all the management roles, CEO, CTO, and CFO. But they never have a product, or we never get to see the product. To tell you that the conversation we're having today is not a fancy conversation, but someone's talked about that at the beginning. Entrepreneurship, the role of being an entrepreneur, is not a cliche or a fancy thing. I was still sharing previously in a conversation, and I think I got that from the CEO of Wilson Lemon Images. There's nothing wrong in being an employee. There's no dignity, as it were, in being an entrepreneur. Just add value to our society. That's what we're talking about. There are employees today who earn as high as 11.4 million naira monthly. So that we will not trivialize the whole role of entrepreneurship and its impact on our economy and what it can do for our nation. I strongly have the belief that the problems that we have in our continent, the positive power of business and entrepreneurship can help solve them way faster than we can ever imagine. So that's just my angle on frank talk, just to advise aspiring and young startup entrepreneurs that we're really here doing some serious kind of job. So I'm going to talk about features of market. I will try as much as possible not to sound very academic. I used to have the background. So what are the features of market? We talk about the product. We talk about there should be a market. There should be, product, place, consumers, consumption, as it were. So when we're talking about creating a digital market, what exactly are we talking about? We're talking about creating an avenue for the buyers or the users of such product, and where exactly they're going to connect with the providers of such value, and how the whole exchange will take place, and the factors that will surround that whole exchange taking place. And I'll use some brief case studies with what we do here at Rivers.ng. Rivers is a prop tech company. We are leveraging on technology to provide accessibility to real estate products and opportunities from anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, sorry. Today, we serve over 17 countries today, Nigerians in diaspora in over 17 countries, who necessarily don't have to be in the country to do business with us. And what are the things I've learned from that? And as we look forward to creating the next kind of market that we require. Knowledge is key. That's where I'm going to start from. Knowledge is key. Bosun's talked about it before, and it's to take me to drive back into the academic institution, the potency of the research and data that is coming in from the academic institution. Knowledge is key. The first thing great brands, or if you want to create a market for your product, is to begin to provide knowledge as a brand. Begin to provide knowledge and be interested in knowledge. Be interested in knowledge. As a country, just that now that we're doing BVN, and what's the second one now? Name, as it were. I think that's the best we've ever done as a nation to gather data. And it's so surprising a small startup right here in the heart of Lagos have more even sufficient data than the country as a whole. But that's not the conversation for today. The conversation for today is knowledge. The first thing you want to begin to do as a business is you need to be interested as a business person, as an entrepreneur, in knowledge. One is to first have it, to study it, and two is to begin to share it. What exactly this knowledge will do to you is that you begin to attract the people that I call your loyalists. One of the things you want to do in building the digital market, especially in this second phase of its digital market, or in digital economy, the second phase of it, is to begin to build a community of people around your solution, around your product, around your brand. And when you begin to build these individuals, you're not just putting them together as a quorum. Loyalists have a cause. They have something that is bigger than them that they all believe in. Loyal community, of the iPhone community, of the MacBook community, there's a stronger need and stronger desire and purpose that the brand is trying to drive. And that's exactly what creating the new market, creating the new digital market also requires of you. People want to belong to somewhere that is much more than just, providing a product for them in their hands. They want to see that there's a higher purpose. And it all starts from knowledge. Seek knowledge, find out more about, and begin to share this knowledge. And that's why you see that brands who are taking time out to begin to talk about providing solution, education, and information to people, and begin to share their purpose much more, gather this kind of markets than as it were. The next thing I want to talk about is, I want to talk about brain power. Bosun has also talked about it, but it's also required in creating a digital market. You want to create talent. And the CEO of PetSave also did justice to that too in his last presentation, which is one of the areas that as a continent we're coming up, to be very honest. And I can see the potential of this when it comes to the brain power. I call it brain power. Some individuals call it human capital or human resource. The role of people in building this market. I want to talk first about the talent that is required in the market. Right now, we're lacking talent. And what do I mean by that? We're still in the dispensation of building or creating front end and back end, programmers, basic data analysts. But there's a new requirement. The data they're getting bigger. We need new ways of interpreting them, new ways of putting them together, new ways of interpreting it. One of the things that I think we will not have a problem as a continent in catching up with is in this area of technology. I feel like there is a desire. I've seen young people and a whole level graduate who is now a CTO of a tech company and is doing way much well. So the divide of saying, oh, I have to graduate with a first class in computer science, it has been taken away from the club. We need brain power for us to create this new market. And I was talking about first the talent that we need. We need more developers, we need more software engineers, we need more data analysts, we need more people who can play around with our algorithms. This morning, I saw a picture far back as 2008. And I'm like, what exactly is happening in the data space of Facebook incorporations now? How large will it be in the next 20 years? What exactly are we going to be doing with all this data in the next 20 years? In such a way that they can tell me when I'm going to sleep and when probably I'm going to wake up. I think it will get to a level that they can control our mood. So when we're looking back at our own continent and we're looking back at our country, we need to build in more talent. We have the numbers, and China is leveraging and is striving on that as a whole. We have the numbers, we just need to begin to educate them. And I love the way that the education of this sector is not controlled within the four walls of the classroom. I love school. However, I have seen one of the research that I did in 2018 was to look at prominent startup founders in Nigeria and trying to relate them with their academic background. And 64% of them did not set up a business or run a company that is in their first and second degree. 64% of them. So you're here today, you're listening to me, you're a young undergrad, and maybe you're studying Yoruba technology or casket making, as it were. You can end up providing a health solution to help many vulnerable people here on our continent. So in creating markets, one of the things we also want to do is we need talent. We also need, in the stakeholders that we need in the area of brain power, is that we need institutions and individuals who can support this notion. Bosun was talking about the role of investors that now, in those days, and it's the truth. I remember Dr. Stephen calling it what did they call it again? Second generation of slavery, where our prominent, our most successful brands and startups are not really in our control. It's not good for our economy, both in the long run and the short run. But that was the only opportunity available. The few local investors that we have there, where they don't have this long-term patience, to wait for your brands to do well. They will give you funds in January, and by December they're asking, where's the returns? They're not even they're not interested in you scaling. They're not interested in you growing. But now, thanks in the last couple of years now, we now have local funders. We now have local investment opportunities here available for you to tap in. The next I'm going to talk about in creating digital markets, we've talked about knowledge, is I'm going to talk about need. And this is very important for us as a continent. And I would like to talk, to say something here. One of the reasons why I fell in love, let me use that word, it sounds very romantic. One of the reasons why I fell in love with technology is the potential for it to scale very fast, is the ability for it to transform the life of people without not being that hard. The truth is, embedded behind all this fanciness of, oh, we're a tech company, is that you still need to do the works. If you're into transportation, the bus still needs to move from point A to point B. You need to get a driver. The car needs to be serviced. So the technology might be overemphasized if it's just a mobile and a web platform, and you feel like, oh, we're a tech company. The job is that you're a transport company for another day. The job still needs to be done. Where am I driving to? Is I get fascinated with technology because it has the ability to do much more than you're expecting it to. Recently, when we started the Homeverse projects in RealVest in 2020, that's last year, post-COVID, we're looking at how exactly do we just participate in this whole housing deficit issue we have in Lagos, and then which has later transcended now to 5 states now. But you're started in Lagos. How exactly can we be part of this? And I remember we're talking about, oh, there are people selling houses. There are people who can afford, but who can afford it in a chunk. Can we provide, flexible payment system like the mortgage systems that we have? You can pay for as long as 10 years or 7 years, but just for you to own a house. There are people who do very dignifying jobs here in Lagos, but you can't relate with where they stay, with the kind of work. They want to stay in those kind of places. That's even for those who are fortunate to stay, have somewhere to stay, and they don't have to sleep under the bridge, as the case may be. So long story short, in about 2 weeks ago, just a week ago, I have a family who had to move into one of our estates. And because there was a pressure on the house owner, on the landlord where they were staying, and the wife, is pregnant, heavily pregnant, heavy, and the environment is not conducive. They have a son already. They know what they went through in staying in that kind of a place. And the man had a desire that even though I can't afford this a house here in Lagos, if a company like this is allowing me to pay 50, I'm moving into the property. See, the joy that came over me when I heard that the family moved into the apartment, and the wife, she's very heavy. So we plan a naming ceremony in our estate very soon. That's the potential of what technology can do, even in its smallest form. I sometimes would humbly or humorously say that the impact that Facebook as a platform, not as a company, as a platform, has made in some individual's life or in some family life or in a community is much more than the impact some churches have made in some people's life. Do you know how many people Facebook has rescued from kidnapping? Do you know how many communities have been saved from terrorism or from insecurity just by Facebook? It's a place we just go and share information. That's what it's meant to do, but it has done more than that. It has transcended into many things. Some people have great families now, and they met their spouse or their partners, on Facebook. Some people have jobs, the job of their dream, they got it on Facebook. So the potential of technology, and that's why I fell in love with it. Where am I going is this, is one of the things you need in creating digital market is to look for a need. I call it the pain of pains. I love solutions that are making life easy for people, but I love the one that is addressing most important issue in people's life: food, shelter, transportation, finance. I love them, and we have a lot of those problems in our continent, and we were trying to create, Maslow hierarchy of need is one of the of my guiding tool when it comes to this. I would always say that you can't get it wrong when you go into those sectors: food, money, shelter, transportation. Why? Even if a country is in war or they're having issues, you don't see people running up naked. People are still wearing clothes. They still want to eat. They still want to move from one place to the other. So in creating digital market, you need to look for needs. So we've talked about knowledge. I'm trying to wrap up. I feel like there's a lot I'm putting it together in this short presentation. We've talked about knowledge, which is the foundation of it, very important. Knowledge will lead you to begin to create loyalists, a community of people who have, bigger desires than just using your product. The next is addressing clear needs. I also talk about brain power, creating talent that is required, that is required and you need to foster this development. And I'm going to wrap up with this. In terms of what are the values for value creators, what are the values you should bring to the table in this new market? I call it the new market. Number one is connectivity. There's a great desire. I don't care. Okay, I care. Irrespective of the products that you're coming with to the market, ensure that it's connecting people. It's connecting people. We're going to be having companies now, Nigerian companies, who will have staff in at least 10 countries. We're going to get there very, very soon. That in one of the things you'll be adding to your CV as a company is that you have a Cameroonian on your team, you have somebody from the US on your team. You would be able to mention about 5 or 6 countries. And then people will be able to take up jobs in about 10 companies. They're not freelancers, like full-time hired staff, and they're working. But connectivity is one of the things that is, prominent in this new market. Number 2 is personalization. Personalization is also very important. I talked about that before. Loyalist. You need to create a community. What's the difference between WhatsApp, Clubhouse, Instagram, Facebook? I used to call Facebook the general open market, like a typical Nigerian market where you can find different kind of thing, right? And then we begin to come to decentralize those markets. So personalization is now next. You can do a voice note on WhatsApp. Why go create a Clubhouse? You can have a forum. You could have it on Facebook, but it's coming down. It's coming down to that level. I heard that there is just already right now a quorum by 100 users that they want to loot Clubhouse. They want to enter by all means. So the next thing is accessibility. Accessibility. One of the things that we're doing that makes us look like, we're a little bit new or we're a little bit different in the real estate sector is accessibility. That's all we're providing. Saying that you can be a Nigerian working hard in any country and you can hold a real estate property project just from your mobile device, from the inspection to documentation verification, to checking the property, to assessing it, all on your mobile device. Accessibility is the next thing. And we flew from just 3 countries, I said 3 countries within 2 months, and today we're in 17 in the space of 9 months of running that product, as it were. Then the last but not the least is knowledge. Knowledge, again, is also one of the things that value creators like you, individuals who want to provide solutions that will help change our continent. Knowledge, you need to provide knowledge for people, information for people, help them gather it in a space, help them put it together. And then that's why I still feel like as a country, we're still getting it wrong on why we're not investing heavily in our education as a country. I want to say thank you. I would, to wrap up like other speakers did, I won't be able to go through all this in this short presentation, but you can get in touch with me through any of the platforms that have been provided by the organizers. I want to say thank you for having me, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Damilare Shokoya. That was a very insightful one. Thank you for the expose into building digital markets. Thank you so much. All right, so if you have questions for Damilare Shokoya, he's not so much of a Twitter person, but you can engage with him on Twitter at Damilare Oshokoya. Damilare Oshokoya. Whatever wise nuggets you picked from what he said, just tweet at him and then make sure to add the hashtag Edustart Summit 21. Damilare, please hang around because we'll invite you to a panel session after this. But thank you for that very insightful session. There was a lot to glean from your presentation. Thank you. All right, so I introduced all the other guest speakers here. I left out one person. He's the curator for Hebron Startup Lab, Covenant University. very visionary leader, a doer. He's been able to achieve a lot, especially around digital learning. He has a very deep passion for education. He holds a PhD in business. He was talking yesterday and he said, my PhD is in business. So I'm the business of the business. And I'm really, really excited. Getting to work with Dr. Mayowa Agbola is a very good opportunity. He has contributed significantly to entrepreneurship education here at Covenant University. And also he has been able to take it a step higher by stepping into Hebron Startup Lab to further advance the work that Dr. Steven started some 4 or 5 years ago, November 2016 to be precise. So Dr. Maya Agbola would be joining us in the panel session. But before he joins us, I'll just give you an opportunity to just say hi to everyone, and then to just give before we go to the deep dive of conversations, just a peep into what we should expect from the panel session. Dr. Maya Agbola, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Just to confirm. Oh, all right. Cool. Thank you very much. I've been enjoying all the sessions. Thank you so much, Damilari. Thank you so much, Abel. Thank you so much, Bosun. And my good friend, Dr. Steven. Thank you so very much. Well, what more can I say? Much has been said. I think the next session is just a conversation. And I'll try as much as possible, just like Damilari said, not to be too academic. I'll try to be very practical in our conversation, trying to bring in some practical scenarios so that we can all, learn one or two things as we engage. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Agbola. That was very sharp and short. Thank you so much. So this is how the panel session is going to take. It's going to be an open conversation among all the panelists. So Bosun is still very much around. Bosun will be joining us. Nora Clark will be joining us. Dr. Stephen Oluwato will be joining us. Dr. Mayowa Agbola will be joining us. Damilare Oshokoya, Abel Adejo. Everybody on the floor right now will be joining us in this open conversation. And I'm trying to keep it very strategic so that the demography of people that we have attending this program can actually be able to benefit maximally from the conversations that we'll be having. So we have introduced every other person except Nora Clark, who is the Director for Entrepreneurship at the University of South Africa, and of course, Dr. Mayowa Agbola, who is the Curator for Hebron Startup Lab, and that's the most important office awards in this school. The other ones are ODL, Vice President, Alumni Association, and so on and so forth. So we're going to have them just do a quick citation or reading of their profile, and after that, we'll just move on to the panel session. We'll take Dr. Agbola first, and then Nora Clark, and then we'll move into the panel session. Thank you very much for your patience, everyone.
Mayowa Agbola, a Fellow of the Chartered Institute of Administration, Fellow of the Institute of Management Consultants, Fellow Member Eudoxia Research Center, and a member of the Institute of Management. He has served in several leadership positions at the departmental, college, and university level. Dr. Agbola was formerly Director of the Covenant Center for Lifelong Learning, Covenant University. He is currently the Deputy Director, Covenant University Center for Research, Innovation, and Development. He is also the Vice President, University Relations, Covenant University Alumni Association. Please welcome Mayowa Agbola. Dr. Nora Clark is the Director, Entrepreneurship Development in Higher Education, University, South Africa. Dr. Nora Clark is the Director of Entrepreneurship Development in Higher Education, University South Africa. She is also the founder of AfraLead, a business initiative focused on the economic empowerment of young women who are not yet employed. They offer an immersive one-month live-in model of training and mentorship for work readiness, entrepreneurship, and sustainable skills. Dr. Nora's career spans across training, supervising learners and students across all levels from preschool to PhD students. An entrepreneur, independent coach and trainer with over 10 years of experience in the education sector. Notably, she set up a Resolution Circle Tech Incubator for technological startups, and this has recorded massive achievements. Please welcome Dr. Nora Clark.
Right. Thank you so much. Welcome, Nora Clark. First of all, let me use this opportunity to appreciate Nora Clark. She joined in as early as 9 a.m. this morning to do the dry run with us. And then she's been here ever since then. This is almost 3 hours into the program, and she's still been here with us. Thank you so much, Nora Clark, for taking out time to be with us. Thank you also for being a very good friend. I mean, I just recently connected with Nora on LinkedIn, and I told you guys, if you really want to build your network as an entrepreneur, you should begin to look out for people within your ecosystem and see how you can connect with them. So drop your LinkedIn profile on the chat session and connect with people. Check their profile, see what you're interested in, and start a conversation with them online. Thank you so much, Nora, again. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Bola. Thank you so much, Dr. Stephen. Thank you so much, Bosun. Thank you so much, Damilare. Thank you so much, Abel, and every other person here. I also must appreciate everyone who is in the attendee session. Thank you so much for being a part of this. This is going to be a very interesting session. I believe that you're going to, the best part of this whole program is here, where you can be able to join and ask questions. So for this part, we're not going to be relying solely on 2 cents. We shall also be using the Q&A session of the Zoom platform to take your questions, and you also get answers. Your answers will be gotten live here. Any one question that we cannot answer on this platform will be, of course, answered on the 2 cents platform. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we have Damilare, and I'm going to start with Damilare because it's the one we are seeing on our screen right now. I'm going to start with Damilare, and then after Damilare, I'll just take the questions round and round, and we'll come back to everybody's going to get to speak on this panel today. So this is, when people heard that I was going to be moderating this panel session, I had like about 4 or 5 of my friends reach out to me and say, please go and hide your activist person, your activist personality, go and hide it here. This is not a place for activism. We're trying to inspire people to become entrepreneurs, because I'm just someone who is naturally always angry with things remaining at the status quo. And of course, whenever we speak about entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship in the digital economy, generally in Africa, people have a lot of questions and agitations against the government. There's always someone to blame for what is working and what's not working and all of that. And I really appreciate the frank talk. And that's the reason why I'm putting Damilare on the spot first. I appreciate the frank talk that he started his presentation with, having to help people understand that, this is not some fancy gist. We're talking about the future of Africa. A lot of things that are going to happen in the next decade and many years to come are going to be dependent on the conversations we're having here. We're going to be reframing the mindset and reshaping the mindsets of lots of young entrepreneurs and helping them get the kind of right mindsets that they need to be able to succeed as entrepreneurs. And you already agree with me that that entrepreneurs are the most important factors of production. If we get entrepreneurs in the right headspace and the right mental space, we'll be able to achieve a lot more in that space. And of course, there'll be more job security, there'll be peace, there'll be prosperity, because I mean, the reason why there's unrest everywhere in Nigeria is just because of poverty. I mean, you can always trace it to poverty, even across the African continent. And our conversations here are not just limited to Nigeria. I mean, we just typically use Nigeria as a case study, but of course, I'm expecting that while Nora is also talking, she'll give us a few insights about what's obtainable in South Africa, some of the challenges that you face with entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurship in Africa, in South Africa generally, and then we'll try to also compare notes. What are we doing right in Nigeria? What are they doing right in South Africa? And let's see where we can copy first principles, proof of concepts, and all of that, and put them together to chart the way forward for the entire African continent. I don't know if that makes sense to all of you. All right, thank you so much. I can see Nora smiling. Nora, I like your smile. Thank you so much. So this is the first question, right? I'll start with Damilare Oshokoya. Damilare, how do you think that entrepreneurship can affect development in Africa as a continent?
How do I think?
Yeah,
Okay, so I like to take a cue from the results that we've seen thus far with the startups that we have and what technology has done already. If this conversation was in the early 2000s, when I was still much smaller in size and younger, I will be using postulation. I've seen incredible things that is happening all over there. This is not only Nigeria, all over the African continent. Things like years ago, we would need a foreign intervention to come help us with. I have seen how young Africans have used innovation within their own space. I have seen bamboo bicycles. I have seen how people are using drones to send health kits to most remote villages. So how do I take technology with the help? It would be, how do we scale the help, the solutions that we've seen already? We should have gone past that conversation, and we see what's happening in Rwanda as a country. How it's a national thing. It's coming. We didn't just create an office like we have in some other countries. The power of technology, I've talked about in my presentation, it has the potential to change people's life. And how would that happen is by people coming to find out what the need and the problems of what people are. And they are evident in our continent. There's evident in our country, high level of poverty, malnutrition, hunger, lack of healthcare. And that's why I don't have a problem with 12 young people or 12 startups in one sector. We need as many as possible as we can get in this place because it can scale. I've seen startups started in Kenya, and that solution is working for over 5 African countries at the same time. So the potential is numerous. Especially because our challenges are the same, our economy is almost similar, our culture, our beliefs, is way similar. And just to wrap it up, so that to give room for other speakers to contribute to this. So my response to the question is, how do we solutions that we have on ground right now? How do we scale them to become more accessible? The problem of education in Togo is almost the same thing in Benin Republic. So if there is a solution, African-tailored solution to what's happening in that country, we can scale it, and that's what technology can do. The problem will not be that there is not enough infrastructure, there's not enough manpower, the policies are weak to help scale up those solutions. That would be my resolve for now on that conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So let's trickle the conversation down a bit. So that question was actually very deliberate to start a conversation, to warm the room up and to bring people who might not really understand what we're talking about, because not everyone that is necessarily up to speed with what entrepreneurship has done so far. So that's just a conversation starter, just to get people to warm up and say, okay, actually there's some level of development going on in the entrepreneurship space, and then it's going to lead us to where we're going. Now, the focus of this conversation is around the digital economy. Now, and Bosun said something when he was talking. I mean, he mentioned something very important, and this is something I've also shared on many other platforms, how that is important for us to actually look at, other than compare ourselves. For example, Nigeria comparing themselves with Rwanda and saying, oh, Rwanda has advanced in technology in this space, Nigeria started first, what are we going to do to catch up? We keep always trying to play catch up in everything. Look at, I was going to talk about this, because that's one of the things that is really paining me. Look at cryptocurrency. Look at how there was just a sudden slam and ban on cryptocurrency in Nigeria when other countries of the world are advancing. By the time other countries have moved like 20, 30 steps forward, then Nigeria will now begin to play catch up. We'll now begin to see how can we begin to abandon the fiat currencies and see how we can begin to adopt cryptocurrency as a way to also move forward. So basically, where this conversation is going is, are there specific sectors, are there specific areas of strengths in the Nigerian space where people, innovative entrepreneurs, can begin to do a deep dive to see what they can actually get out of it? And is that, can you mention like 2, 3, 4, 5 parts? And then what is the potential you don't have to give us all the data and facts, but what's the potential in your own estimate for those sectors?
Okay, thanks for that clarity. So just to look at the sectors, I think it will start from what are the major challenges that we have as a continent or as a country. One of it is high level of unemployment. You can't get it wrong in that sector. I also talked in my last presentation about Maslow hierarchy of need. For me, that's like a secret sauce that, I'm involved in a couple of businesses, and I'm always trying to ensure that we find ourselves within those hierarchy of need, as Maslow has talked about it: food, clothing, shelter, transportation. Even during the COVID, you can see that. So these are the sectors that you check, they were moving. They were moving. Transportation, money was still moving, and that's why you can see the whole pressure that is coming with the rise of fintech. I don't think we still have. I think the last time Abel was saying we have maybe 60 million unbanked, Nigerians, or they're even more than that. And then even the ones that have banks and are not active users of that, so there's still a major space also in payments and in banking sector. So if there are sectors that I'll quickly just point out to, is such an individual should look at what are the major problems we have as a country. What is funny about this is that the numbers doesn't change. It has gotten to a level where we love talking about those numbers. There's a way it gives us some confidence as a continent. High literacy level, high level of unemployment, and it just makes us feel like, there are opportunities embedded in that area. The next one is to look at Maslow hierarchy of need, and I'm sincere about this. Whether you're in Pakistan, you're in Iran, any country, food. It now depends on who is buying the food and at what level are they buying the food. It depends on who is buying the table water. You can buy it for $15 and you can still buy it for $1. So you can eat in a small outlet and you can eat where your cost of eating for a day, feed and food is food. Shelter is also, you can stay in a high rise estate and you can stay somewhere where you are comfortable with your family. We need people also to attend to that area at different levels of that problem. Clothing. No one is going to walk naked in the best of their minds. You can see an individual who will carry a bag that can sponsor 10 children to school. That's okay. But what about the ones that don't have the shoes to go to school in the first place? Who is taking care of those individuals? And that's why, let me wrap up with this, Gideon. I don't want us as a continent to hide under the building technology. Our mission as a continent is using technology to solve our problems, so that we can have accessibility and we can scale them.
That's deep. Guys, you can tweet that. Please, do you want to take it again so that people that are tweeting can tweet that? Please take it again.
Okay, I don't want us to hide.
I'm supposed to look like January 2021.
Just to wrap up, I don't want us to hide under the old flamboyancy of technology. For us as a continent, if we're going to be deliberate, is that we're going to use technology to solve our problems. That's much more important. So it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be premium in itself. You just have to solve our problem. Is there a young person here who will who will use technology to help our pregnant women and children that are suffering malnutrition? It doesn't have to be, how will I call it? It doesn't have to be at its best, but is it solving the problem that we have? Can it get to as many local communities as possible? I think that for me is the essence. So that we don't run on that, it has a fine UI, the interface is nice. We need to have some sort of robot that will greet you at the airport. Maybe we will get there at some point, right? But now I'm not concerned about the health, the next generation of young people. The number of people who are still dying with malaria, who are still dying with simple health. We don't have enough hospitals to take care of these children. If we are going to do something remarkable for ourselves and for the next generation, is to leverage on technology to solve those kind of problems.
Thank you. I quite agree with you. I agree with you. Distribution is actually a very big problem. And I remember I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and I told him at that conversation that, at the end of the day, if you have a solution and that solution can be distributed across to the nooks and crannies, to the places where, they do not have access to technology and all of that stuff, and it can solve their problems there, then you are good. Thank you so much, Damilare, for that submission. I'm coming to Dr. Mayowa Agbola because this is also very important. But before I come to, because I'm going to put some of them on the same pedestal, Dr. Maiwa Agbola and Nora Clark, because they play the same space. Nora Clark is the director for entrepreneurship at the University of South Africa, and Dr. Maiwa Agbola is someone who has played a very important role here in Covenant University, leading the online distance learning, entrepreneurship programs, and currently leading Human Startup Lab team to greater heights. So I'm going to put all of them on the same pedestal and judge them by the same because so Dr. Bola will speak from the Nigerian context, and then Nora Clark will speak from the South African context. So Dr. Bola, let's talk about education. Bosun Tijani emphasized in his keynote about the importance of education in preparing people for entrepreneurship, and spoke so much length about how education plays, the academia plays a very important role in entrepreneurship. From the Nigerians' point of view, what do you think is the missing gap?
Sorry, I didn't get that. Can you repeat?
Yeah, what's the missing gap in our entrepreneurship education in Nigeria?
Yes, thank you so much, Damilare, for that question. And I think the answer to that question was sort of answered yesterday. I had a brief meeting with the Vice Chancellor of Covenant University, and we were talking about Hebron Startup Lab. And in a way, we try to look at how far we've gone with entrepreneurship in Covenant University. And we try to identify the fact that entrepreneurship is beyond making students to learn one vocational skill or the other, but we can turn the university to a startup lab such that every student from 100 level to whatever level can come up with the ideas and see how we can help them build those ideas into products, valuable products, and maybe as individuals or as groups, and launch them out to the world, because those businesses can never be enough. The world is filled with lots of people who need one product or service, and we can even further improve on what is already existing. And so our entrepreneurship in Nigeria, most especially, we have not really gone far. Thank God for what Covenant University is doing and a couple of other universities in Nigeria. But I think we need to take this a little further. Instead of just teaching the students the principles, the ideologies, and all that, I think we need to be deliberate about our actions and how we bring these students up with the mindset of the entrepreneurial mindset, going beyond the theories and being deliberate about the fact that they should be able to start their businesses, give them the opportunity to start their businesses within the university space, and also trying to bring in the digital part of this whole space into whatever businesses they are brought up. I think this will sort of help us in Nigeria. I don't know what Nora will have to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Thank you so much, Dr. Bola. That was really insightful. I'm still going to hold you. I'm still going to hold you down because I'm really big on entrepreneurship education, and from my participants' demographic, I have a lot of them who are students, and they are curious to know what should we be learning right now? What should we be doing right now? The government does not seem to have a plan for us. What plan can we create for ourselves? And I'm still going to hold you on that. But I'm going to move very quickly to Nora, my very beautiful friend, Nora. Nora, can I see your face, please?
Okay. My camera is on. I hope you can see me.
Yeah, I can see you now. I can see you now.
Thank you. There we go.
So I need to just do justice to this. Now, what are you doing at the University of South Africa to further improve entrepreneurship education? And what are the challenges that you are facing, not just you and within the organization where you work, but then as a country and on the continent, what are those challenges that you have identified, and what are the necessary steps that we need to take? That's the first leg of the question. The second leg will now be to, okay, just in case we're having issues getting policies, but while we are still negotiating the policies to be done, we cannot afford to keep the students folding their hands and waiting for government to help them. What can students do to further improve their entrepreneurship drive and all of that? That's the second leg of the question.
Lovely. I like double-layered question. Thank you so much. But Gideon, I hope you don't expect a quick answer from me.
Okay, like yes.
You remember, I've been here since 9 o'clock this morning, so I'm ready.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No,
I'll give you 4 minutes. So
don't worry. I'll just stick to this. I'm teasing you a little bit. Gideon, I think what's very important is that our contexts in Nigeria and South Africa are very similar. But that said, every single university, for example, has a unique context. Even in our different countries, no two universities are the same, because every university has a unique context and unique characteristics that define what is available and what are the limitations in that particular institutional context. And I think that means that we need to take each university on a case-by-case basis. I need to make one quick correction. So the organization that I represent is Universities South Africa, which is different from the University of South Africa, which is the biggest distance learning university in South Africa. Universities South Africa is the representative organization of the 26 public universities in South Africa. And we have a collective focus on entrepreneurship development in universities. And that is the program that I'm heading up and that I've been collaborating with the public universities and some valued colleagues. I've noticed some names in the list of participants that are attending and participating from South Africa. Some valuable people who are really working and who are now increasingly aligning towards driving entrepreneurship development in South African universities. So this has been happening for the past 2.5, 3 years now on a very focused basis and aligned with 3 aspects of which entrepreneurship development, entrepreneurship education in the classroom through a specific curriculum, for example, is but one aspect. So that aspect is critical and so important. And I've got a lot of thoughts and suggestions and around that, because we need to bring industry. I listened to the entrepreneurs in the room, who spoke, that the speakers earlier on. I mean, we need to bring those voices of industry into the classroom. And as we teach the theory behind entrepreneurship, we have to bring the industry closer. We've got to build that bridge between industry and university, get industry into the classroom to help us make entrepreneurship education real. Also, take students in entrepreneurship out there into the workplace, into the world of business, to go and learn on a practical basis. So that's one important aspect. 2 other aspects that we're touching on, and I can elaborate on that later, but I don't want to take up too much time, is we focus on the development of student entrepreneurship outside of the classroom as well. So we really find the natural student entrepreneurs, and we try to support them as much as possible. I see our winner of the National Entrepreneurship InterVarsity, Promise Nyalunga. He was the winner of the national competition last year, and he's in the room. And, that's the kind of person that we want to identify at universities, because they usually maintain a low profile. We need to do things as universities to see who are these potential leaders in business and in industry that we need to identify while they're studying and put the spotlight on them and support them as much as we can. The other aspect, the final aspect, is, of course, what do we have to do to create the entrepreneurial university context? Something perhaps that Covenant University is doing very well, from what I'm gathering. The entrepreneurial university which nurtures entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial activity by students and staff.
Thank you so much, Nora. Thank you so much. Great submissions. I like your line of thought. It shows that you are really passionate about this and you have like a total plan and ways to contribute to the ecosystem. Thank you so much for that. Very quickly, I would like to recognize a few people. I've just been reliably informed that the Vice Chancellor for Afe Babalola University in Nigeria is also somewhere among the attendees. I've asked the technical guys to please help me promote him and bring him up on the panel. Olarili. Okay, Samaranda Olarili, Professor Samaranda Olarili should be coming up to join the panelists while the technical guys are working on that. I'll quickly go to Dr. Stephen Oluwatobi, and this question is for you, Dr. Stephen. And this question has come to Dr. Stephen because Dr. Stephen is a very avid researcher. He's also very passionate about entrepreneurship. He was the director for the Center of Entrepreneurial Development Studies here at Covenant University. I've never said this to him directly, but I actually found purpose by just observing him and seeing what he did. One day I just walked up to him and I said, "Sir, I'm going to close my company and I want to join you in supporting startups." I don't know how that came to him, but I really discovered that that was what I was cut out to do. I found out that it's more effective to contribute to Africa's development, to support more startups, other than having the company and having all the employees for myself. I don't know if that makes sense, but that is exactly how I saw things, and then I brought him on board. Dr. Stephen has a lot of knowledge when it comes to statistics, so this is why I'm bringing the question to him. And I don't expect you to give me data, like hard facts or hard data, but then just off the top of your head, what do you think? What do you think, Dr. Stephen, is the state of the digital economy in Africa right now? Where are we? Where are we coming from? Can you just take us like a rundown? Where are we currently?
Let me use the opportunity to acknowledge Nora. Hello, Nora. Good to see you here. Dr. Mayo, I can see you. Abel, I can see you. Damon, I can see you. And I also want to recognize the Vice Chancellor of Afe Babalola, Professor Elizabeth. Good to have you here. And thank you for making it to be here. And Gideon, so back to your question. So I won't give you specific data because I don't want to give like kind of assumption, but let's just look at the entire field, Africa as a whole, and see how this plays out. Comparing Africa to other economies of the world, and looking at the peculiarities of our problems. Or maybe I should start this way. For our attendees that are here, I would just like to do something for me. What do you think are the key problems in Africa? Just put it in the chat section. What do you consider the key problems in Africa? Pain points, major problems, irrespective of sector. Just put it down in the chat sector. And I mean, in the chat section. And the reason one is saying health, all right? I'm seeing education, I'm seeing poverty here, skills gap, corruption, and quite a number, I mean, as I'm saying, from leadership. So there are quite a lot of problems that we face in Africa. Now, next question, because I'm trying to tie this to the question you also asked, Damilari. Lack of proper data gathering, yes, because I mean, the best of decisions even make to know that we're trying to solve the problems that exist in Africa. So let's try this in a picture. The problems, leadership, corruption, health, education, these are problems. How can we solve these problems? Because people just have ideas. Damilari says something about ideas. People come up with interesting ideas, but where are these ideas coming from? Everything begins with the problem of education, corruption, food, poverty, literacy. I mean, everything begins from the problem. It's from the problem that we'll now ask ourselves sincere questions, brutal questions, like how do we solve these problems in a way that is simpler, in a way that is cheaper, in a way that is smarter, in a way that is faster, in a way that we can help to reach the people who are already excluded from the solutions that those in advanced regions or advanced economies have. So let's look at it from the context of, say, education. Education right now is getting expensive every single year. In fact, someone called it eduflation. That's the combination of education and inflation, such that the price of education is getting extremely high. So why is it getting so high? Because let's use universities as an example. So universities building buildings. They'll have to create departments. They'll have to institutionalize certain things. So the libraries, for instance, will have physical books. They will have to maintain those buildings. They will have to hire cleaners to clean up. They have to hire handymen to ensure that things are in place. So all these things are kind of like cost. So who pays for all these things? Somehow all this will be spread and put on the customer, in this case, students, on the assumption that the primary source of income for such institutions are tuition fees. So how can we make that simple if we're going to relate that to what we're referring to as digital economy? And how can technology help us to do that? Because we're as good as technology is, it has to be purposeful. It must be solving a problem. It must be aimed at something. Bringing that to the context of education, how can we get people to know more through technology in case they can? So through technologies like the one we're using right now, we can get knowledge to a lot more people, educate a lot more people, empower them, give them certificates, whether certificates are available or certificates are not available, but they will get to know the things that they can use to empower themselves and also to be part of the problem solution process in the case of the African context. So for all the problems we've listed in the chat section, how can we solve them? We can solve them using technology. We can solve them by trying to understand what the problems are, and then we begin to figure out what the solutions are. And when Ido was talking about the aspect of teams, he talked about people with the potential to learn, the hunger to grow and all that. So in such case, if we give such kinds of persons, irrespective of where they are, the opportunities to access knowledge. I heard of an Indian who just, broke a piece of gold in the wall and slot like a TV screen into it and started to play. And, children in India gathered and they were watching and they were learning. Another guy also experimented and put the monitor of the computer, through a hole and provided the keyboard, on the external side. And the children were figuring out how to use it without anyone teaching them. And they figured out how to use it. They were exploring and asking questions. They were trying to find out how to maintain their parents' farm, getting knowledge through the internet. Why? Because of such technology. They were all sharing it, finding out things. Now, these are kids who in less than 2 weeks learned how to use the computer, figured out answers to questions of which they have never been to school. These are just village children in a village in India, and they figured out solutions just from such kind of thing. Now, bringing that to the digital economy context, we have those of us that are in the urban areas, and we have some of us, who are in the rural areas. And statistics, tell us that in the context of Nigeria now, I can't speak well for other aspects in Africa as a whole, but you can tell that in the case of Nigeria, we have a huge portion in rural areas. So how can we, connect with these people? One, not all these regions have access to higher education institutions or formal platforms where they can access knowledge or connect with people or connect with teachers who can expose them to, a bigger horizon of what knowledge is. So how can we expose and connect these people to the world? A simple, ICT center that, is connected to the internet that allows, community people and kids to come learn and to, get insights from knowledge can solve that problem. They could solve their parents' problems when it comes to agriculture. They could solve their electricity problems by finding out how to even build a wind turbine. What can they combine together? They can find out how to assemble things. There are lots of how to do stuff on YouTube. So it's not every kind of education that has to be formal, for instance. So I'm trying to bring all this just to, give, insights in the fact that, yes, we can actually solve our problems using technology. Let's look at Kenya, for instance. Kenya invented mobile money. I mean, we hear of M-Pesa today, that was invented in Kenya. Mobile money was not invented in Europe. It was not invented in the USA. I mean, it was invented in Kenya, here in Africa. And the idea was to say, how can we make money available to people, and people can transfer, money from themselves, that they stay in the city and connect with their relatives in the village or in the country. Basically, M-Pesa helped to solve that. And you don't even need a smartphone to do that. I mean, just a basic picture phone helps to do that. So this is an African solution, basically trying to solve the problem. So the idea is, how do we perceive our problems in Africa so that we don't overflow the concept of the technology. The essence of saying, oh, okay, what this economy has done is to give us the huge potential to do something really remarkable. That is, it has become cheaper to do that. So someone in the village can actually start something. There are lots of personal cryptocurrency. I mean, Gideon was talking about cryptocurrency. Look how place called Sean. Sean created Nairaland. Nairaland is one of the most visited sites in this country, and it's valued at over almost about $100 million US. And this guy is somewhere in a small town in Nigeria. He didn't go to a formal environment when it comes to education, but his understanding of what he had learned about how the internet works, how to code, he created this platform called Nairaland. Has become a forum. People advertise on the platform. People share ideas on it. In fact, there are a couple of Nigerians who, before they make any decision to buy a particular product, they will go first of all to Nairaland to get information and all that. Now it has become a multi-million-dollar company just by one guy, saying somewhere in the village. This is just to express the idea and the fact that this economy has given every single one of us the opportunity to create something that can solve problems. And from the process of solving a problem, you can create value in the process. You can create prosperity in the process. You can create opportunities, see what Facebook wants to celebrate. Instagram is not just a photo sharing platform. There are many persons who are, we can call them Instagram entrepreneurs. Products, they sell their product things on such platforms. So this is just to express the fact that entrepreneurship, one, is a solution. Two, the digital economy has given us the environment to do that. Then for introduction, in order to meet the rising demand for goods, products, and services. And one infrastructure that was very instrumental during that time were trains, because if you mass produce, how do you get products to market? So the railway system, trains were, the infrastructures built to ensure that products were massively produced, products were moved from the points where the produced to the markets where they could in a digital economy. This era is such that ICT infrastructure has become the railway system to help us connect to markets beyond our geographical boundaries, to help us deliver products beyond our geographical walls, to help us connect with people, recruit more people, connect with information and knowledge. So Nora can, create something in South Africa, and I can have access to it in Nigeria. I can know exactly what she's doing. She can know exactly what I'm doing. Why? Because of this kind of economy. So since this infrastructure has been created, what can we in Africa do with this kind of infrastructure? To create solutions to our own problems. Because what this infrastructure has done is to give us the opportunity to solve our problems a lot more cheaply. Students in universities can solve the problems that they face by leveraging on technology like this. I mean, there are many students in government university who are already entrepreneurs because of this kind of technology. People are creating apps that are solving big problems because of technologies like this. So the idea is this economy has given us the opportunities, and I don't think we've scratched the surface well enough in maximizing the opportunities that this provides. And this is me just saying, for higher education institutions, we need to look way beyond just what we provide in formal education, because the present model, being in the formal education system for over 10 years, I'm already questioning the fact that Africa is presently facing. Because the idea is, when we produce these persons and award them degrees and certificates, where are they going to? What opportunities are already available there for them? One, there's a lack of job opportunities. So we don't need the kinds of graduates that will be shipped into the world of work where there is no work. Rather, what we need to do is to create a kind of graduates, talents, students who can create opportunities, including employment opportunities for themselves and for other people. So they're not going to add to the problem of the already existing lack of opportunities, but they're actually going to solve the problem to create opportunities, create jobs, create platforms, make bigger things happen. And this is how we should play out. Look at Africa as a whole. and I'm using Africa now because I know that the number of persons here beyond Nigeria. Just look at Africa as whole. We are supposed to see how we can solve our own problems. Knowing what the problems are, we create our own plan. From that plan, we create our own manpower plan, right? Which will inform what kind of educational plans we have, what should we be teaching in schools, how should we teach those things, and how can we make these things affordable. More importantly, it has to be available, then accessible, then affordable. Then we can reach more people and scale the impact of the solutions that we're trying to solve. So I believe that the digital economy has given us that foundation for us to reach more people and make more impact and solve the bigger problems that Africa actually has.
Yeah, Dr. Stephen, I was going to ask you to hold your thoughts there because this is something I want to engage you on later on in this session. But quickly, let me just refresh the room. So just in case you're joining us on this platform, you don't know what we're doing here. This is Edustart Global Summit 2021, and we are discussing entrepreneurship in the digital economy. I'm joined by Nora Clark, who is the director for University of South Africa. Did I get that correctly this time? Okay, awesome. I'm also joined by Dr. Stephen Oluwatobi, who is the host for this program, the chief host for this program. I'm also joined by Dr. Muyiwa Agbola, Damla Oshokoya. Earlier in the conversation, we had Bosun Tijani, the CEO and founder for Co-Creation Hub. We also have Abel Adejo here. And then while we're talking, I quickly mentioned the fact that there's the Professor Elizabetta Smaranda Olarinde, that's the Vice Chancellor for Afe Babalola University, Nigeria, also joined. And I asked the technical guys to please bring her up because I'd like to engage her on a few things. So I'm going to switch the conversation a bit. So if you noticed what I did, when I started this conversation, I started from asking questions around entrepreneurship. And then we went to digital economy. What are the sectors that we should focus on? And then I went on to say, okay, where are we right now? So the next level is to bring everything together. And I'm going to ask Abel a question. But before I go to Abel, I'm going to put Professor Elizabetta and Nora Clark on the spot a bit. I want to make mention of something which has been making the rounds in the news lately. That's the issue of the African Continental Free Trade Area. That's the AFCFTA. The conversation has been on for a while now about the free trade zone agreements and all of that. Now, I'm going to start with Professor Elizabetta. Professor, you're welcome. Welcome to the panel. Kindly unmute your mic. Professor Olarinde, can you hear me, ma? All right. Please reach out to our technical guys. Please reach out to her to come on. She's probably doing something else. But let me talk to you, Nora. So, Nora, tell me, how do you think that the free trade agreements, how do you think that it will influence entrepreneurship? How do you think it will influence entrepreneurship education? What opportunities are there for entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, to catch on this trade agreements between the African countries?
Thank you, Gideon. I think that this whole matter rests on the very topic that we are talking about today, in the sense that the digital economy opens the international market to student entrepreneurs and to entrepreneurs in any form. Because even as student entrepreneurs, the audience, entrepreneurs in the audience that might still be students, can now think of doing business across borders, doing business. We've been talking about e-commerce for a long time, but it's been something that's been, far removed from the average person. Now it's within our reach. And this is the kind of context that we need within which to encourage trade and business on the continent. And I think nobody is really too small at this stage, and no business is too small to start experimenting in this space. And I think that is why the digital context in which we live and work now is so critical. We see digital skills as a new literacy, or not that new, but it's a literacy that is really required for every person to have in the era in which we now live, as much as financial literacy and business literacy, entrepreneurial literacy, are the literacies that we need for the current context. And I think that is, within that sits so many opportunities for university student entrepreneurs, because they have so much going for them already. They've got such a strong foundation that taking the next step into international, doing business internationally across borders is not that far reached.
Thank you very much, Nora. Thank you so much. What I was actually looking to know if they learn from you would be if there are specifics as to what industries, what sectors of the economy should we be looking at. The reason why I'm saying this is because, like I said, I understand my attending population, the demographic of people that are here, and a bulk of them are people who are looking for opportunities. They are open to say, okay, where do I pitch my tent? What sector do I play in? I want to make an impact. I want to be able to make money, and I'm looking for that sector that I feel like would be that easy place for me. Or maybe not necessarily easy, but let's say that my impact can be felt and will be like not as stressful as other industries. So with the free trade agreement now in the digital economy, are there specific sectors, are there specific industries that they should be looking at to say, okay, I think I should pitch my tent in this industry. I think I should pitch my tent in this sector. Are there skills also, entrepreneurial skills that they need to begin to have or pay attention to be able to benefit from the free trade agreement in digital economy? That's the question.
So in that sense, this is not my area of expertise, but what I can comment on is that there's a big shift in focus, I think also as a result of the pandemic, towards supporting more local, and with local I also mean regional, from the continent, businesses. I think there's a move away from supporting businesses or doing business on a large scale with large industrialized nations. There's that is from a South African perspective, definitely. There's a move towards embracing manufacturing, especially on local soil. So there's an opportunity that I see, because for so long we've been outsourcing manufacturing, although we all, and our continent is such a resource rich continent, but we've been outsourcing manufacturing, exporting raw materials, but not really getting the benefit of manufacturing within our own borders. And I think that is a big opportunity. So manufacturing really, in the broadest sense, is one big opportunity that I see.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nora. That was, I mean, you started by saying that's not your field, but you actually did justice to that question. Thank you so much. Very brilliant mind that you have. Thank you. So just in case you're listening to us, this is just to help you understand that manufacturing is also an area that you should begin to look at. I see that there seems to be a lot of concentration on developing software and software technologies and software technology solutions, but then manufacturing is another area, especially with the free trade agreement that's currently ongoing. I think that's something that you should begin to look at. Thank you so much, Nora. I'll quickly move to Abel. Hi, Abel. How are you doing today? Abel, please unmute your mic.
I'm good. What's up? How are you doing?
Yeah, so I didn't ask you that when we started, so I used this opportunity to ask you. So tell me, Abel, what do you think are the ecosystems that we need to put in place to drive development through entrepreneurship? I don't know if you understand that question, but I believe that everything works in systems, right? So I'm just looking to find out from you, and I'm sure that a lot of people find answers to that. What are the ecosystems that we need to put in place for entrepreneurship to thrive in the digital economy?
Gideon, sorry, you were breaking up. I didn't get some parts of the question.
Okay, I was saying, yeah, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, I was saying that things thrive in systems. We believe that for entrepreneurship to thrive, there has to be systems.
Okay.
So what are the systems that you think, or what are the ecosystems that we need to put together to thrive in the digital economy?
Okay, it's a very broad question, really, because first of all, I would say we are not even in I don't want to say a country, we are not even in a place where a lot of these things are encouraged, right? And for us to go digital, there's a lot that comes into play, really. Just like many people here have mentioned, when we try to take digital, we try to take finance digital and all of that, we see that there are a lot of drawbacks, right, from the government and all of that. So the first step for us, I think it's some middle ground with the regulatory bodies, right? I think no matter how much we try to build ecosystems, or no matter how much we try to digitalize a lot of things, it boils down to some of the regulations, right? The thing is, I think in the past 2 or 3 weeks, you'd see that a whole lot has been happening in the digital space, right? You look at the crypto space and all of that, you see a lot of coming down on startups from regulatory bodies. So I would say, first of all, one thing we need to get right is, what's it called? Should I say fine-tuning a partnership with the, should I say private and public sector, right? Or with the government and startups. I don't know how to coin it that way, but that's even the first thing we need to get right before we can, what's it called? Make the digital space work for everyone, really. Now, once we've gone into that, I can say, if we've gotten that right, another thing would be the education. So, for the tech space and all of that, a lot of people, if you notice, a lot of people who have gone into tech right now, or who are trying to make everything as digital as possible, you'd see that they don't have experience, or they never studied anything in school, right? When it comes to tech, when it comes to programming and all of that, right? So I think it's now very obvious that you don't necessarily need to have a degree from maybe computer science or something like that, to enter into the tech space, or to want to create digital products and all of that, right? So education is very important, in the sense that I think a lot of our educational, I don't call them syllabus now, right? But we have to get that right, because a lot of them are stale. A lot of them are very, very stale. We don't train for skills anymore, or what's it called now? We don't train for, should I say, careers, right? Rather, we are still in the age of, do 4 years, study 4 years to do this and do that. A lot of computer science graduates don't even know how to code a line, right? So one thing we need to get right is the education, when it comes to what's it called, creating a digital economy or digital products, right? So now, there are two different sets of people here: those who those who create the products, and those who are going to use the products, right? So I'm using products here as an example. There are people who will create it, and there are some who are going to use it. So there has to be education on both parts, for us to get this thing right. Now, the education angle of the users is, how do I put it now? For example, you see how a whole lot of people have a very bad, or should I say, they have a misconception about digital currency, right? Like, oh, it's being used for fraud, it's being used for terrorism and all of that. And, it's easier to convince the generation after us that that's what it's being used for, right? So a lot of education has to come into it for the users when it comes to, bringing them up to speed in digitizing an economy and all of that. So for the user aspect, that's it. For those who will be creating the digital product, a lot of people are eager to get into tech right now. And I won't say it's really because of the money involved or something, no. I think it's a pretty untapped market, or pretty, what's it called, untapped area, where a lot of people, they have ideas, they want to bring it to life, right? But they probably don't know how to go about it. So I think we need to start creating technical schools, a lot of incubation centers or accelerators, as the case may be, for people like this. One thing we are trying to do at PettySave, right, is to be able to educate a lot of people, not just educate, to train a lot of people, you know, to come into this tech space. The thing is, you know, Nigeria being a very frustrating society, it enables you to even come up with so many ideas to try and beat that frustration, right? So that's why you would see that a lot of Nigerians leave Nigeria and they're already excelling at whatever they are doing in another country. I don't think it's because we are much more special than these other guys, but from the points at which we are coming from, there are a lot of bottlenecks, there are a lot of hurdles that you have to cross. So you actually have to be thinking on your feet at every point in time to be able to cross things. So a lot of Nigerians have few the ideas, they don't know how to get it up to speed, or they don't know how to get it to light, right? So we need to create like a technical, not just one anyway, we need to create a whole lot of technical schools to train a lot of people to come into this sector and be able to digitize, what's it called, the economy, or digitize a lot of products, you know. I would say for now, those are the points I can come up with. There are much more, there are much more, but you know, I'm talking from the standpoint of where we are as a country, or where we are as a people, really. The economy for us, or the country for us, is very, very tough to navigate, right? So if we can get these two things right at first, I believe every other thing that comes after it is pretty simple.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Abel. So I'm going to just, Abel, still stay, because I'm going to ask you this question. The next round of questions is going to go to all the facilitators, all the panelists, and it's just a yes or no question. Now, Abel, I'll start with you. Do you think that regardless of these policy issues, this lack of cooperation from, or inadequate cooperation, or low cooperation from the government and government agencies, do you think that we can still innovate our way through all of these things?
Okay, I'm going first, right? Definitely. I think a lot of...
Yes or no? Just a yes.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
Yes, we can, regardless of, okay. All of them, Larry, what do you think? I cannot hear you. You need to unmute your mic.
Okay, I said I didn't get you clearly from my end, the question.
Oh, okay. I'm saying that, can we still, okay, let me rephrase. Can we still cause a transformation regardless or in spite of these weak institutions, these weak policies? When Abel was speaking, when we asked him to talk about the ecosystem, he spoke about the education, the need for creation of all these things. We are seeing these challenges, and a bulk of it is around government policy. Do you think we can innovate our way out of these problems?
Yes, your word is transformation. Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. Nora.
Absolutely no doubt about it. It takes one person, one resolute person with a lot of drive. And it's not going to be easy, but yes.
Okay. I'm still going to come back to you, Nora. Dr. Bola, do you think it's something that we can do?
Yes.
Okay, now, Dr. Bola, what do you think we can do? What are the steps that you think we can take? There are people here who are frustrated, who are angry, who are saying, oh, I think I can cause some form of disruption. I think I can contribute significantly. But every step I'm taking to innovate is there's one policy or the other, or there's one lack of support that is causing me not to thrive on this thing. What do you think such a person can do?
I think Nora just said it. I don't know what extra to say. It's just the drive. We just need the drive. We need the same mindset of people. The people with the same mindset to come together and say, irrespective of whether government policies or no working government policy, we can get this done, and we just drive it down. That's just it, basically.
Okay. So, Damlari, I think you have something to say. You should say something.
For me, I'm going to support what Nora said. Just to be sincere with you, it's going to take a lot of effort. It won't come easy, but it's possible. We have seen it happen, and it's going to happen bigger and bigger again. It just takes one person. Yeah.
Awesome. What about you, Bill? Anything to add?
Yes, I was going to say, I mean, I'm happy to know a lot of people who have this resilience we are talking about, a lot of people who are doing stuff on the ground, right? Even some of us on this panel, you know, trying to get through some of these bottlenecks. And just like everyone has said, it takes resilience, you know, it takes a lot of boldness. I mean, there's a lot of risk involved, or I mean, while we're entrepreneurs, right? So I would say, yeah, it just takes all of these things, a group of people who are ready to, you know, make that change, and definitely we'll get there.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much. I hope Professor Elisabetta is back. I do not know. I've tried to reach out to her. I do not know if she's back, but if you're back, please just unmute your mic and let's. All right, let's just move on. So very quickly, Dr. Stephen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need you to be a bit more practical. I know that there's everybody shares the optimism. I mean, it's very healthy optimism, right? It's okay for us to say, oh, we can do it and all of that. But let me just tell you the truth. And Nora, I don't know if you can relate to this, but a lot of Nigerian youths are actually already tired of motivational speakers because of the aspire to perspire, we can do it, and then we are trying to do it, but every time there's one problem or the other, there's one challenge that is big and seemingly insurmountable, and I'm choosing my words carefully, seemingly insurmountable, right? But I want you to be a bit more practical, to trickle down on, okay, yes, we can do it, but what can I do? What kind of mindset do I need to have as an entrepreneur to be able to survive the harsh entrepreneurial climate in Nigeria, for example? And I'm also sure that it's not also a bed of roses in South Africa. I have a few stories to tell about South African entrepreneurs in South Africa, but I won't say that because Nora is here. But yeah, are there things that we can actually do to, I mean, could you trickle down on those points and see what are the actionable steps? What are the kinds of mindset that people should have? What are the kinds of skills, competencies entrepreneurs should build in preparation for the harsh entrepreneurship climate in Nigeria and in Africa as a whole?
Okay. Well, that's true. I mean, people have heard a lot of you can do it, you can make it kind of stuff in Africa. But even beyond that, I'm glad you brought out the concept of mindset, because it's a way of thinking. And I believe this has been transferred from one generation to the other until it has gotten to this particular generation. And that's the aspect of complaining. Africans are good at talking and complaining, extremely good at doing that. You know, so when we see problems, it's just there's this unusual energy to complain about such kinds of problems. What we need to do right now is to begin to see problems differently, because problems never change by just complaining about them. So my own thesis to this is for us to view the problems as opportunities to solve them. And this is where the entrepreneurial mindset comes in. Because the entrepreneurial mindset views problems differently. So when an average mind that loves to talk about problems and complain about problems, who looks at the problem and complains about how bad the problem is and how that problem has been here for decades, and how, you know, one leader has not taken, you know, proactive measures to ensure that problems are solved, one other guy is sitting down somewhere thinking and calculating because he has an entrepreneurial mind and is looking at the same problem as an opportunity to solve the problems and possibly figuring out ways by which he can be paid maybe $1, $2, $5, you know, from 1 million people for solving that same problem that the millions of people are even complaining about. So first of all, we need to change our way of thinking. And this should also transcend into the culture and values. And this is one thing I believe that higher education institutions should begin to consciously do, because mindsets are not built accidentally. They are consciously done. The environment has to be created around it. And maybe I should just, you know, use this opportunity to just mention, you know, how we can create the kinds of environments that will help us to build this kind of mindset. First is we need to create an environment that enables people to learn the right things. That is after establishing the fact that we need to have the right mindset. And whoever is teaching, I'm using the education institution as an example now, also has to have that kind of mindset, because you can't give what you don't have. Someone who is not entrepreneurial minded, who is teaching a student and who doesn't understand the potential of entrepreneurship will most likely see a student who is maybe trying to be entrepreneurial and tell the student that he or she is wasting his time? I mean, how many entrepreneurs that are successful today did their lecturers tell them that you're wasting your time with this, put food on the table? I mean, I've seen lots of things on Twitter where people will tweet and say that 10 years ago, my dad told me that this that I'm doing, I'm not focusing on my studies, I'm focusing on pursuing entrepreneurship. Will you put food on the table? And 10 years afterwards, which, is today, the person has become a millionaire and the father is saying, son, I'm proud of you. So the idea is the fact that we need to unleash these people, first of all, by helping them to build the right mindset. Next is to create the enabling environment to support that. And such kind of environment includes, Abel mentioned one of them, that's the regulations, whether as a nation or whether as an institution. Are students even allowed to even trade, even in the university campuses, to even do deals? That's one. Two, if you come up with an interesting idea that is a solution to a problem, how safe are you? What is the extent to which your intellectual property is secure? What kind of environment has been created to say that, yes, you can hold someone responsible for his or idea, and if someone tries to, infringe in any way, you will be backed. There is an institutional framework that says that you will be backed. Also is the fact that what kind of infrastructure is in place to support these persons to begin to experiment with the ideas. And I use the word experiment because Africa is also a place where failure is seen as a plague. So if you fail, you are considered a permanent failure. Whereas failure is just feedback. It's just to say that, okay, so this is not how this stuff is going to work. So let's try another way. So if we begin to help young people understand that failure is feedback, then they'll begin to approach it differently and not have to see themselves as lifetime losers just because they failed once. But rather they're seeing whatever failure as an opportunity to learn how things don't work and how they can begin to approach those things differently and then to solve problems and find out how things will win. After all, this is how many persons that we call successful entrepreneurs today or even professionals today, this is how they've all become winners in life. So the perception of failure is not final, but that failure is just feedback is also crucial. Then the kind of infrastructure also should be available. Just like when Bosun was talking about setting partners like tech hubs and all that. If someone has an idea, where can he go to get that support? That even if it's availability of electricity, access to maybe a computing device to make something happen, access to internet, just go there, you have a work desk, a workspace, and there are people there to guide you, the entrepreneurial mentors to guide you and to support you. And if you come up with anything that looks magical and has a potential, you can easily be linked up with someone who has access to resources, who can also guide you and also link you up with markets for whatever solution you're coming up with. And also link you up with bigger networks that can help to refine whatever you are creating. Because, I mean, we have to survive in this ecosystem. So rather than the ecosystem stifling the whole process, because it's both ways. But now let's come down to the individual as a whole. And let's focus on what we can control for a typical person, young person who wants to pursue his or her entrepreneurial dream. First is to begin to view problems differently, right? Problems are opportunities. So when you see a problem, resist the temptation to begin to complain about them and figure out, particularly if you're extremely passionate about such kind of issues. I think it was somebody who said that those things that piss you off the most could be pointers to what you have even been created to solve. So what are those problems that really piss you off? Maybe that's what you've even been created to even solve. And how can you begin to view those problems as opportunities to solve them? And how can you solve them? Let that be your life's mission and begin to, address them. And also, if you fail at doing that the first time, it doesn't mean that it won't really work. Maybe you need to find another technique on how you're going to address them. So the perception of failure also should be dealt with. Failure is not final, it's just feedback. So these are the things that I would tell any young person who would like to pursue a career in entrepreneurship and to really solve the world's problem and even create fortune from it. And maybe I should just even mention this. Let me mention this. People don't like pain. People don't like problems. And I have the idea and belief that the money is in the market. The customers are in the market. And they are in the market because they want to solve their problems. They want to relieve themselves of whatever pains that they're going through. You as an entrepreneur, what you need to do is figure out how you can provide that solution and solve that problem. The guys in the market have your money. What they're asking you to do is give them the solution and they give you your money. And so for young people who are looking for money, give and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together. So give the solutions that you have. But first you have to create the solution. Not everybody will take the time to create the solution, but what makes you unique and exceptional is that you've taken the time to create the solution. And when you provide it, those whose problems your solution will solve will reward you in form of, the price that you've placed on the product. And then you can now increase the number from, making a profit of $1 from 5 persons each, of $1 to 1 million persons each. So you can even make $1 million from providing a solution and making $1 each from the 1 million people. And then you can begin to create value from there. And such wealth you can use to solve bigger problems. And so it's starting from the micro level. So create that solution and start to solve 1 person's problem, 2 persons, 5 persons, 10 persons, 1,000 persons, like that. So that's how we scale our impact. So let's begin by simplifying it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stephen. Dr. Bola, this question is going to go to you. It's going to go to Nora, and it's going to go to Damilare Oshokoya. I have a different question for Abel, and I'm going to bring that up very quickly. So according to the Global Entrepreneurship Index, there are 3 major elements that make up a successful entrepreneur, right? There's entrepreneurial aspiration, there's entrepreneurial attributes, and the third one is entrepreneurial ability. Now, Dr. Bola, I'm going to start from you. What are those things? Did you get me?
It's sort of breaking.
Oh, okay. So let me take it again. So according to the Global Entrepreneurship Index, right, there are 3 key elements that makes an entrepreneur. That's entrepreneurial aspiration, attributes, and ability. Attitude. That's the second A. Attitude. And the third one is ability. I want Dr. Bola to speak to entrepreneurial aspiration. What should be the aspirations of entrepreneurs in the digital economy? Well, Laura is going to pick up immediately after and talk about the entrepreneurial attitudes in the digital economy. Then I want Damilare Oshokoya to speak to entrepreneurial ability in the digital economy. Did you get that?
Okay, well, I'm trying to pick up what you're saying, if you can hear me clearly, because the network seems to be breaking. But I think you said I should speak on entrepreneurial aspirations. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's correct, sir. That's correct, sir.
Oh, okay. So how do I bring this up? Okay, I'll use a practical scenario. And I think this should be deliberate, and it should start from as small as individual families. And the scenario I want to bring up here has to do with my son. And some years back, I noticed that my wife's phone was he was able to open my wife's phone without knowing the password. And it was quite amazing how he was able to, to identify that. Now he's 8 years old, going to 9. And he walked up to me recently and he told me, he said he wants to be an inventor and a musician. And the next thing I got myself thinking, I said, okay, so what can I do to help him achieve this? And because he's already thinking of, because I've subjected him to several opportunities for him to mingle with musicians. I have a tab for him. He watches a lot of YouTube. He's learning a lot of things, how to create things and all that. And in a way, I've also introduced him to a couple of guys in Hebron Startup Lab. And he just came home to tell me that I want to be an inventor and a musician. And recently I just said, okay, I need to get him a laptop. Let me get him a device to, start where he could start practicing maybe some sort of programming, some sort of coding as he, mingles with those in Hebron Startup Lab. And I think what I'm trying to bring out here is that we need to start looking at paying attention to our young ones. We need to be deliberate. It's not until when they get to the university level or the secondary school level, but we need to start catching them from as young as their tender age, maybe in the nursery school or primary school. The children that are born in this age are going to grow very fast in wisdom, in knowledge, and in understanding, far beyond the level at which we were growing. And the high time, the earlier we wake up to this reality, the better for us. And that is when we'll be able to build these entrepreneurial aspirations amongst our children, our students. And I think this is what I just have to say in just some few minutes that I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bola. Nora.
Gideon, you gave me an interesting one. You know, so when you say attributes that a student entrepreneur, or that entrepreneurs need, and I'm sorry, my focus is on student entrepreneurs. So I hope there are student entrepreneurs out there listening, because I want to share 3 attributes with you that I think are critical for your success as an entrepreneur. And the first one is going to be very unpopular. Maybe they all are. But the first one is that you need to be a realist. I smiled when I heard my colleagues in the room say how entrepreneurs and young people are so tired of the "you can do it" speeches, because it's a lot of that isn't seated in reality. You know, we are also told, we're told all kinds of fallacies and lies and myths about ourselves from very young ages. So some people face all kinds of negative talk about them from a young age. People tell them what they can't do. Now that's wrong, that's all wrong. But then on the other hand, they also lie to us and they say to us, you can do anything you set your mind to, which is a lie. Never in my life could I have become a ballet dancer. It was just simply not possible. If you see me, you will understand. Even if I wanted to, I could not become a ballet dancer. So let's just stop the lies. Let's stop believing the fallacies. People want to make us feel good about ourselves. They want to make us feel confident about ourselves. But the true characteristic that you need is realism. Look at what you have and look at what you are. You have a lot, you are a lot, but you can't do just anything. There are certain things that you do better and other things that you're not that great at. Get to know what you can do really well. And then secondly, be realistic about what you have. You might be in a situation where you feel that you might be like many South African students in a situation where you're really suffering from in a context of poverty. But you don't have nothing. What is it that you do have? Maybe what you have sits in the relationships that you have. Maybe it sits in the people that you know. Maybe it sits in the fact that you have internet access. I mean, that is worth so much. What do you have? And what are you good at? And what is available to you? What resources do you have? Then the second thing is resilience. And that is such an overused word. For a long time, you never heard the word. I did my PhD on the topic, and you never heard the word. But now, since the pandemic, we hear the word resilience a lot in terms of personal characteristics, but also in terms of business. And that is something that both you and your startup need. And resilience is the same as when you started to, for the first time, ride a bicycle. And you fell, and you had to get up, and you had to try again. And you fell again, and you got hurt, and you cried a little bit maybe, and you got up again. And that is resilience. It's not only the keeping the endurance, but it's actually then becoming like the best cyclist out there ever. You know, it's becoming more than pushing those boundaries, becoming the very best version of yourself as a business person, knowing yourself. And then the last characteristic is really the point I wrote. Oh, you have to be one-track minded. They tell us we can have a balanced life. We can have it all. I mean, we as women are told that all the time. Oh, you can have it all. You're a modern woman. You can have it all. No, not the average Joe like you and me. Sometimes we can have it all, but not at the same time. And when you build a business, believe you me, for 5 years, it is only the business that counts. You're probably not going to have a balanced life. I'd love to hear the responses of the big entrepreneurs in the room who's made a big success of their businesses. I want to know whether you were really able to have that balanced life while you started off your business, or whether you also found that it's in the beginning, you kind of like have a one-track mind. It's mostly your entire life is basically consumed by the business for the first few years. Please share your thoughts with me in this regard. Gideon, if I may ask the seasoned entrepreneurs in the room.
Okay. So let me put that to Abel. Abel, do you want to jump in and chime in what Nora just shared?
Okay. First of all, I would like to say either way it goes, I don't think anyone is wrong. If you have a balanced life from the start, or you're just head on, in business all through. Well, for me, it's the latter, because I would say it was a pretty tough transition for me. You know, I'm an architect by profession, like I said, and in the first 5 years of being an architect, I've designed over 500 buildings, with that kind of client base. So I was totally immersed in architecture. So transitioning into the tech world, it wasn't going to be, what's it called now? A very easy transition for me, right? So I just had to make that decision by myself that, you know what, I just have to ignore so many other things, right? And face the business 100%. I would say it has even affected my social life to an extent, right? But it's not killed it. And I'm lucky enough to have a lot of people around me who understand that, okay, I'm transitioning in business, right? So I'm going to need a lot of focus on the business. When we get it to a steady stage, then things can go back to normal. So for me, from the start, it's not been balanced. It's been 100% my head buried in the business, right? And just like I started with, I don't think any way is wrong. Yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you so much, Abel. Thank you so much, Nora. Thank you. I'm still coming back to you, Nora. But then, just as Abel was speaking, I can see Professor Olarinde's video is on. Prof, can you hear me? Hello, Prof, please unmute your mic. Hello, Prof. You would need to unmute your mic. Oh, she probably doesn't know what I'm watching now. Okay, so let me quickly move on to Damilare Oshokoya. I'll still leave her a message. I'll see if she would respond. Damilare, you have to speak on entrepreneurial abilities. What are those things that are, those competencies that entrepreneurs should have in the digital economy? Kind of unmute your mic, Damilare.
Sorry, I didn't know. If you are an entrepreneur in the African continent, or Nigeria, or South Africa, or anywhere in the world, the kind of skill that you need to have is more than the ones that's in Harvard Business Review. You need much more than that. You need homegrown, rolling of the sleeves kind of. You can't use grammar to cover it. Your head has to be there in the game. So to be honest with you, what entrepreneurs, I'm very particular about Africa, need in this digital economy is a reorientation, is a shift in mindset, to be honest with you. I strongly have a feeling that every African has a DNA of entrepreneurship in them. Why do I say that? We live every day, same problems, and we still find a way to maneuver around it. You know, it's incredible. You don't understand how that feels. You know, people are living where there is no clean water, where there's no access to electricity, and they are still going, you know, you can find joy on their faces. You can see them living their lives. So the basic, all this tenacity, ability to be able to, we already have that, right? So what would an advice that we need is, I'm sorry to bring it again, let us look at our problems differently. I feel like we've heard so much about our problems that we have intentionally decided to live with them. We're no longer seeing them as problems any longer. It just looks like it's a part of us that we've decided to accept that way. And I'm challenging majority of our young people because I think we're building too much of a generation of consumers who love what they're seeing on social media, who love what they're seeing. And in a way, we're running away from our problems. So we're living in an ideological world. You know, we spend 6 hours online, we see all the best of the world, and then we'll come back and say, oh, this one is temporary. So, you know, someone would be somewhere in Madagascar and will be living the reality of someone that is in Spain or France because he's either watching Netflix and when he's Netflix on his social media. And so when he's walking by and he's seeing that there's a problem on my street, there's a problem in my community, he's not conscious, he's not seeing it as his own problem. It's some people's problem and we're surviving around it. So Gideon, I might not sound like the popular opinion person. I'm particular about the problems in my community. I'm particular about building the next generation of entrepreneurs who can see our problems as real problems that needs to be solved. It's that passion for me. Every other thing will come in play, right? But if you begin to see our problems, you know, we live in a very divided world. Majority of the guys that are here today have access to smartphones and they have internet. That's why you're here. And that's why you're getting this information. There are young people with potential in our sub-rural areas, in our rural environment, who have the potential to do this too. But the capacity is not there. The infrastructure is not there. So if we begin to live in the world where we are the ones that get to see the plane, we are the ones that get to travel out of the country, we are the ones that drive the best of the cars, and we don't see those problems as our problems any longer, because we have the resources to live above them in a way, right? So if our light is off, we'll probably put on our solar system. If our solar system is not there, we'll put on a generator system. So what happens to those local farmers who are providing the food that you're eating in your house? You say, I'll refrigerate for when there is no irrigation. Do you get? So just to summarize it, please, what skill would I want, you know, aspiring entrepreneurs in Africa to have? I will not list all those, be passionate, be creative. No. See our problems as something that needs to be addressed. And we've listed some of them. Some of you have even listed some of them. Like, have a connection with them. Let us live for something much more greater. Let us put in and say, if there's going to be a new narrative, so I might not be a popular entrepreneur, I might not be on the Forbes list. I'm saying, if this is the smallest problem I can solve with this entrepreneurial approach, with this positive power of business, my mentor will call it, it has the ability to transform people's life, change your family, change your community at the time. I'm saying that is the single skill that I would advise that you should have today. We're passionate about our problems. Everything will fall in place.
Awesome. Amazing contributions, Damilare. Thank you so much for that. Let me just, as we begin to wrap up and zero in on the conversation, where I want this to lead to, I won't want this conference or this summit to be one of those conferences or summits where we get to talk about the problems, we identify the solutions, and we leave just like that. I want to see how all this conversation can dovetail into something actionable, something that we can take away and say, okay, based off our conversations at Edustart Summit 2021, these are the things you have been able to do. So by the time we're coming back in 2022, by God's grace, I want to see that, okay, we've identified a problem or two, and we have actually solved those problems. And that's when we can indeed say that this program has been successful. Because at the end of the day, it's not a game of number. I heard Nora when she said it just takes one person. Damilare also attributed the same thing, one person. If we find that one person in this room, then we must have succeeded, right? So let me just put this zero on this. Now, Abel, I need you to come and contribute to this because it is very important, right? What do we need to do now? With the people in this room, with the people on this panel, what do we need to do now? Where do we take this conversation to? Do we need to further dimension this, maybe take it to another platform and further dimension this? Or do we need to create a platform? Do we need to start an advocacy? What is the necessary next step we need to do right now, in your opinion?
Okay, yeah, I would say the next step is simply collaboration, right? Every one of us in this room are from different sectors, or we operate in different sectors. We have different ideas about how to make different things work, right? But you see, these different things are what forms part of the economy, or what forms part of a man's everyday life, right? So a collaboration between seasoned entrepreneurs in different sectors, right, brings about a total change, right? It brings about I wouldn't say an immediate change, right? But that's the start towards a total change, right? So I'm not big on us having just a whole lot of conferences, this and that and that. No, 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 no. From here, I think the next step is first of all for us to collaborate, right, and start creating solutions. Now, a lot of people are in the room, or a lot of people have listened to us. They want to get to where we are right now, or they have ideas, but they feel like, oh, how do I get to where this guy is? As a founder of a company. And so I think when we collaborate at this level, it's now incubating a lot of people who have several ideas from all the different sectors as well, to start to try and create change. So I would say my point is just collaboration.
Okay, thank you so much, Abel. Dr. Agbola, what are we doing next?
Okay, just like Abel said, and that was what was in my mind.
Your mic is muted. Your mic is muted.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now? Okay, good. So I just like Abel said, talking about collaboration, I was going to say networking. We need to build on our network space, and to ensure that we keep on the conversation, we keep on the encouragement, we keep on talking about it, and then try to see how we bring up those who are looking for the solutions, who need to be advised, if you understand what I'm saying, and try to build a community. I think that basically is what we should be doing from now to before the next program.
Thank you very much, Agbola. Nora, I'd like to hear from you.
This is probably the toughest question, because what I do next is going to depend on who I am now. Am I an entrepreneur? Am I already in business? Do I want to scale up? Am I perhaps in the support network like myself for entrepreneurship? What is my current role? So what I do next is going to depend on that. I'm going to assume that you're an entrepreneur and you're a little bit stuck at the moment and you need to get going. I think your first step is that you've been thinking a lot. You've been talking a lot to people. You've been listening to a lot of people. I think you need to now make a quick list of what are the possible actions that you can take. And you can set, and you need to, from that list of actions, decide which of those actions is going to take your business forward quickest, with the biggest impact, the biggest financial return in the shortest possible time. I think that is, if you're, I'm assuming you're an entrepreneur who's stuck. That is my just quick bit of next step is stop thinking, start doing something.
Thank you very much, Nora. Thank you so much. Dr. Stephen Oluwatobi.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay. So I'm glad that I'm seeing connections in the conversations. I also had collaborations as one of the points deliberately on what can we begin to do going forward. The reason why Edustart had this summit also is to harvest answers to this particular question and get ideas from the participants and also from the panelists and also from conversations like this. So at Edustart, these are the things that we plan to do. This is our mission and also a personal passion for me on how we can help to drive development from the ground up So for us, our own strategy for driving development from the ground up, since there are some things we can't control in terms of drive development from the top down, driving from the bottom up is through entrepreneurship. So once you invade schools, we already understand that those within the ages of 14 and 35, quite a good number of them are already in schools. So we want to collaborate with schools, higher education institutions in Africa to help to develop the mindset, in this case, the entrepreneurial mindset, just to help people think differently as to what we can do with Africa's problems. So what Edustart will be doing for the next 1 year will be based on that, helping to improve the entrepreneurial mindset from that age, just to secure the future. The other part of it, which is what I started with, and quite a number of these panelists here, they've mentioned that, and that's the aspect of collaboration. So it's one thing to help people to build their mindset, to begin to see problems differently, and to see problems as opportunities to solve and to create prosperity in the process. But how are they going to go from there after they begin to view problems differently? This is where collaboration comes in. So how can we foster collaborations? So we want to strengthen collaborations with universities to help universities connect a lot more with industry, to help universities to build, behavioral sort of life kind of things, to also help students take their ideas from concept to product to market. And through such collaborations, students that experiment with stuff that sound interesting can also get support and funding through such kind of collaborations as well. Universities that don't have the support when it comes to internet access can, through collaborations, have internet access into the institutions. Institutions that don't have workspace for startups that will help them scale from where they are. Through collaborations, we can help to provide that. So for us, it is basically two things: to get the entrepreneurial mindset injected, and also to create the necessary support through collaboration. So that for us is our own plan.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Stephen. Let me just quickly, because we are coming to the end of the program. In the next 5 or less minutes, we'll be done. What I just want to do is, I want you to know that there's a community that supports you, whatever sector you play in, as long as you're connected, as long as you're part of this ecosystem, and that's the Edustart Global Community. So the link to join the community has been pasted here in the chat session. You can actually click that link and become a member of that community. You can also follow on Twitter. The link to follow on Twitter is on the chat session. The link to follow on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, they're all on the chat session. What that does for you is that you get to get live updates as we make progress with these conversations. We would update you, and then we'll also reach out to you from time to time to see what role that you can play. Also, you get to join this community of entrepreneurial-minded people. If you have questions, if you have suggestions, you can also reach out to us to take this further. I'm aware that Edustart Global has three features. That's the platform has 3 features. There's a poll vest that allows you to find investment opportunities. There's the Edustart Learn that teaches you about entrepreneurship. And then there's a final one. What was the 3rd one? The community, of course, the community where you get to network with other entrepreneurs like yourself, right? So please take advantage of this opportunity and sign up now. As I round up, I just want everyone on the panel to just say in 1 minute, wrap up whatever it is that they have to say, zero in on their major points, and then let everyone take these key points and share them, keep them, run with them, and achieve success with all of them. I would start with Nora.
Thank you, Gideon, for starting with me. I've just been receiving messages that I'm urgently required in another meeting. So I ask you to excuse me after this.
Yes.
And I want to, so in closing, what a big, big honor to have been part of your discussion, colleagues, and part of this whole conversation. EDHE, our Entrepreneurship Development in Higher Education movement, considers Edustart a friend, and especially its founder, Stephen, Dr. Oluwatobi. We are so fond of you and the work that you do, and we consider ourselves to be your friends. And thank you for the honor of including us in this conversation. I want to make one call here. one thing in closing, and that is I want to speak about women and to women. Student women and women are underrepresented in entrepreneurship. They make up the majority of students in South Africa. I don't know about Nigeria. Majority of graduates are women, majority of students are women, but student women are underrepresented in business. I call on all of you to help us identify and remove the barriers that keep student women from going all out in business. And student women, I want to call on you to say, don't give up. I know you face certain things that not everyone understand. My call on you is don't give up, find ways around those barriers, but keep going. And with that, I would like to close. Thank you so much, colleagues, and for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Nora. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we excuse Nora so that she can go and do other things. Thank you so much, Nora. Thank you. Up next, Dr. Mayowa Agbola.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. So quickly, as a way of wrapping up, 3 things I would like our young guys to take note of. One is that they should master these digital skills, such as digital marketing, social media, coding, big data, and the rest of it. You never can tell where you need it. 2, master a field or a subject area you'll be known for. Master a field or an area where you'll be known for. And 3, build a digital community, followership in that thing that you are good at. And lastly, build your entrepreneurial mindset around that which you have built already. I think with this, these are just some few things I would like to say as a way of wrap up, and also persevere. Don't give up. I think that was just the last point Nora gave. Very, very important. Don't give up. Dr. Oluwatobi said, failure is just feedback. It's not the end. So it should be a stepping stone to your next action. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Agbola. Thank you so much for that amazing contribution. We'd also excuse Dr. Agbola now so he can run off. Thank you so much for being a part of this, Dr. Agbola. On behalf of Edustart Global, I'm saying thank you for being a part of this. God bless you immensely. And up next, I'll have Damilare Oshokoya.
Okay, so I'll just zero in on my focal point since morning again. Be interested in our problems as a nation and as a continent. You have the capacity, you have the skills, there's something in you that can help us solve those problems. So that would be my plea, that we should all look within and solve our own problems. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Damilare. Abel.
Okay. Thanks again for this opportunity to speak on this platform. For me, it's more of a solidarity call. Right now, with a lot going on in the digital space, the tech space, I believe a lot of people are already losing motivation. Right? They can't see a way out, or they can't see a way to start. We have started things. We've gone far, right? And I believe all of us on this panel are actually willing to bring a lot of people under our wings. So I would say, don't lose any form of motivation. Some of the best ideas in the world are right in some of these heads here. And, if at any point you need some form of mentorship, you need some form of, explanation on things, you need to just connect with us. I believe we are very, very available to you. I'm very available to anyone, right? But one thing that has driven me for a very long time is creativity. In whatever you do, you just have to be creative. Like whatever you do, whatever company you're building, whatever regulations you're trying to sidestep, the watchword for me is creativity. Without that, I don't know, it's going to be difficult for you to build something worthwhile. So, while you are trying to keep motivation high, you even have to be creative about how you are going to keep your motivation high. So for everyone listening, I would say don't lose any hope, don't give up, we are here for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abel. I'll just quickly say that just in case you have questions that were not answered, I have some questions that were not answered. Please go to 2 cents and answer those questions from, ask your questions there and you get answers from all the speakers. If you have a question for Nora, Abel, Damilare, Dr. Bola, Sheun, Bosun, and Dr. Stephen, you can get your answers from there. I deliberately left Dr. Stephen to speak last because I would like him to just give his own 2 cents, zero in on all the things we've had so far, and also use the opportunity to give the vote of thanks for being a part of this program. And from there we'll go. But do not leave here without connecting with someone. Bosun emphasized it, Laura mentioned it, Damilare mentioned it, Dr. Stephen also mentioned it. You don't want to leave here without networking with someone. So drop your LinkedIn profile, let people look you up, follow you, start conversations with people, join the Edustart community, be around people who inspire you, who motivate you, who you can compare notes with so you can become a better entrepreneur, especially now in the very difficult terrain and also very interesting terrain. It's not difficult, not entirely difficult. It's also very interesting because there are also opportunities in the middle of problems. When the digital economy and the opportunities abound. So be around the right kind of people, and the right kind of people are here on Edustart Global. The link to joining that community is also pasted in the chat session. Dr. Stephen Oluwatobi, thank you.
Thank you very much, Gideon. I want to deeply appreciate everyone who made it to be here today. First of all, I want to deeply appreciate all our facilitators, our keynote speaker, Bosun Tijani, the panelists and facilitators and speakers here, Damilare, Abel, Nora Clark. Sheun couldn't make it here. She couldn't make it for this particular session. She called me this morning about something that really came up. She would have loved to be here. I really want to appreciate every of our speakers, facilitators for this particular summit, and I want to deeply appreciate you. I also make this request to have all of you join the mentorship network for Edustart Global Foundation in line with what we're going to be driving for this year. So this is my own informal request to the entire team here, that's the facilitators, to join the Entrepreneurial Mentorship Network for the Edustart Global Foundation, even as we drive our Edustart Reach project, which is aimed at reaching 50,000 and cultivating 50,000 high-growth entrepreneurs in Africa to create multi-billion-dollar solutions and create prosperity in Africa. So what we're going to be doing this year, we're going to be supporting entrepreneurship development, particularly from higher education institutions, whether polytechnics or universities, basically post-secondary platforms. We will also be doing a couple of things with secondary level education, because we want to help to cultivate high-growth entrepreneurs and talents. And we are bringing the concept of talents because not everyone might become an entrepreneur, but the best of talents are the ones that are entrepreneurially minded. So we're going to be investing in supporting that. So for us to be able to do that and support you, join the Edustart community. The link is already in the chat section. That's one. Two, in case you represent or you're a student or a faculty or you represent any higher education institution, you can bring Edustart Reach to your school. The idea is we're going to help the support from the entrepreneurship education point to helping the university build the entrepreneurial ecosystem that will help to cultivate high-growth entrepreneurs and talents and make magic happen even from campus. Because what we want to do is to help students to become entrepreneurial-minded and also, be able to do things that will enable them to take their ideas from concepts to product to market. Basically, we need to be able to create a lot more masterclass from universities in Africa. So that's what Edustart is all set to do. We have proven certain things at Covenant University. Now we want to scale that across board and see to it that we can help to drive development from the ground up. And so I want to appreciate everyone who made it to be here. This is also being recorded and it's also live streamed on YouTube. So in case you want to refer back to this particular Edustart Summit 4.0, go to YouTube and search for Edustart Global, the channel, and subscribe. You'll find this particular recording already there, because this is presently live streamed on YouTube. So you can still make reference to this video, even on YouTube. Feel free to reach out to us. Our contact email is contact@edustartglobal, edustart.global. So that's the email, contact@edustart.global, contact@edustart.global. One of the team members of Edustart will just help me type and put that in the chat section. You can follow us on Twitter, you can follow us on Instagram, you can follow us on LinkedIn. Try to keep in touch with what Edustart is doing. As I mentioned, our mission this year is to cultivate high-growth entrepreneurs, and we are in with it. You can bring in Edustart Global into your universities. For the vice chancellors here, we look forward to being of great impact to the things that you're doing. And I know that together we can build a brighter future and make the entire Africa a huge and successful platform to create the best of opportunities that we have. Thank you very much. Thank you, DJ.
Thank you, Dr. Stephen. Thank you, Abel. Thank you, Dr. Mayawa. Thank you, Professor Elizabetta. That's the Vice Chancellor for Afe Babalola University. Thank you for being a part of today's session. Thank you to all the technical, Ray, Ziola, everybody. Thank you so much for all the work you've done. We're very proud of what you're doing. Thank you for your contributions. God bless you immensely. On behalf of the organizers, I'm saying thank you, thank you, thank you, and see you this time next year. Ensure to sign up to become a member of the community so you can get updates on recent developments. And of course, as you achieve those, you also share part of the glory. Thank you so much for being a part. I'm signing off now. There's an after party, just in case you're interested. After parties on Google Meet. That was a joke. But yeah, enjoy yourself, everyone. Bye. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.
Now reveal